You know, the Tour de France is getting like the Olympics these days. At the end of every edition, we say it's the best tour ever, or certainly since the last one. 2011, though, really was 21 days of extraordinary racing. Actually, make that 21 days of extraordinary racing on one very odd afternoon at a medieval theme park. Well, it was medieval to start with. Once it got going, the team presentation at the Puy de Fou showed no regard for boundaries of history, geography or good taste. One moment killed the general mood of nonsensical jollity, though, the introduction of the defending champion.
Le champion espagnol, Alberto Contador.
That was the crowd's verdict on Alberto Contador, free to race this year's Tour, while the UCI appeals against his not guilty verdict on charges of using steroids at last year's. The race started up in northwest France with 3 days in the Vendée region, and things got worse for Contador on stage 1 when he was caught behind a big crash.
Well, there's no doubt. Oh, and there's been, we're looking to the left here now as we see all of these riders here. Now, this is a massive pile-up, Paul. I just caught a glimpse of it outside of my eye, and that's just happened.
Well, let's have a look at where it's happened, because it's over on the right-hand side, and it's gone down very hard indeed, and that has blocked the main field. Wow. This is why, Phil, inside of the last 20 kilometres, you've got to ride in the front. Now, it's difficult to see just exactly whether or not any of the big leaders were involved in that accident there. And in fact, it was a spectator who just was standing too close into the road there, and a rider from Astana went down very hard. It actually looked like Alexander Vinokourov.
Well, let's hope there's nobody injured there, but that was a massive pile-up, and it's come at the most crucial stage of the charge for the finish and completely split the peloton here. Well, time now really does matter if any of the potential candidates of final victory. It happened on the right of the road there, and it looked as though a rider from Astana did clip the side of a spectator, and he ricocheted left, unfortunately, right into the pack, which took out a lot of riders. Now they've got a split. So as we see the race now, they are 3.8 miles from the finish, and there is a very definite split on.
Thomas Vogler there in the green jersey. He's looking very nervous, looking left and right, staying right up in the first 4-5 positions. Also, Philippe Gilbert very comfortable on the right-hand side in the black, yellow and red jersey, champion of Belgium.
There is Alberto Contador playing with his little radio piece. And now, I'm not sure where he is, but I think he might be on the offensive here to try and chase up to the lead group. He's got his whole team working for him. So Contador, like the day when we went down to La Grande Motte a couple of years ago, is losing seconds to men who may matter later on in the Tour de France.
When you're the man who's the defending champion, you've got to remain calm in a moment like this. This is only 1 day, Phil, out of 22 days of racing. It won't be good for his morale, but he can't panic. He can't push himself into the red zone. He's got to look around, use his team, and hope that maybe on the final ascent up to the line that he can try and pull back a few seconds. Now it's Radio Shack. Jaroslav Popovic on the front end of the main field with a big R on his shoulder. He is thinking about this. Hincapie in second, third position there on the left-hand side with the white glasses. He's looking over his shoulder. Come on, Cadel Evans, you can stay with me. This could be a very interesting point. We're looking here, Phil, 31 seconds Contador has lost at this point.
This is what you said earlier, Paul, because Cadel Evans was riding at the front to keep himself out of trouble, and it's not just kept him out of trouble at the moment, it's working in his favour. These are huge time gaps when you've lost the Tour by 23 and you're half a minute ahead. That could be the Tour in 3 weeks' time. You just don't know. At 2.7 miles to go. Radio Shack and BMC, the two American teams, and HTC High Road have got themselves in perfect position here. Remember, George Hincapie in his 16th Tour, he's seen it all before.
He has seen it all before, that is for certain, because now we can see BMC getting it worked up at the front. Third place there is Bernie Eisel, the Austrian rider. It's out to 36 seconds now for Alberto Contador. He's not going to pull back any of that time here, Phil, because these guys are full on for the stage victory here this afternoon. Andreas Kloden of Radio Shack has made the junction. All of the big leaders have been very attentive. It would appear to me only one man has been caught out, and that is the defending champion. He's in this group with 2 miles to go. Alberto Contador, there he is.
Well, I doubt it is going to get back now in less than 2 miles to go. He is 36 seconds behind. Well, this has been an incredible turnaround at just about 8 kilometres from the finish. A crash has altered the destiny of the stage of the Tour de France. Well, it may not have done. because Philippe Gilbert is about 4th or 5th in the line here, and just on 2 kilometres from the finish.
Andre Greipel is not going for the win this afternoon. He's the man on the front. He's digging deep now to keep this pace nice and high, because in 3rd position you've got Philippe Gilbert. In 4th position you've got Thomas Vogler. In 5th position you've got Damiano Cugnaux.
Well, that was a huge effort by Greipel. It lasted about 100 metres because the big sprinter on the flat couldn't cope with the climb, as we're now heading up towards the finish. This is all the pressure on the man in black now, and he's only got 2 men left in front of him, and Thomas Vogler is there. There's another crash here. We've gone back down the road. I'm not exactly sure where, but is this the Contador group in trouble again?
Well, there's a lot of riders are very nervous today, Phil. They really are taking all kinds of risks. It's the first day. We're looking here at inside of 3 kilometres to go. This group has been splintered completely as Philippe Gilbert is in 3rd place.
Now that's going to be a difficult call for the referees, because the 3 kilometres to go rule will come into play, but the race was already split, so they're going to have to sort that one out, and we'll have to go with whatever they decide. But these are the attacks we expected to come now, and that is a good move to aid the man in 3rd place, Gilbert. He needed somebody to put a big move in.
Well, I tell you what, Katusha have put the big attack in, but Philippe Gilbert is sitting and waiting. I spoke to somebody just before the start about how to win this stage here. You've got to wait. You've got to bide your time right down to the last moment. Right up there in 3rd position. It looks like Rojas is looking very comfortable indeed. Not too far away in the green jersey. Thomas Vogler is looking ready to see whether or not he can pounce. The Spanish national champion, Phil, in 3rd position. Rojas has got an incredible turn of speed, especially at the top of a climb like this. Cugnaux is in 4th.
Well, Philippe Gilbert there telling his teammate to keep the pressure on for as long as he can by shaking his head in 2nd place. He doesn't want to be at the front yet. I've got to watch the right here of the road, because this is also another, and that looks to me like the little figure of Alexander Vinokourov who's launched the attack. That was to be expected, and this is helping Gilbert. Vogler has got 2nd wheel. Gilbert is 3rd. Hushoff is moving up as well. He's in about 6th place in the white jersey.
Bosenhagen is right up there as well, but here's Fabian Cancellara.
That is Fabian Cancellara, who's gone with a huge amount, and Gilbert recognised that one, because if Cancellara goes, you've got to counter. That is an absolute flyer, but you know, it's a long way to the finish off this bend as you sweep around the corner. Cancellara looking, and he's got trouble on his wheel. Gilbert does not want to go yet, but he may have no choice. He's got to jump and make it hard. Gilbert kicks again. The champion of Belgium has got it. Well, he goes up towards the line now, and Cancellara, he made the move spot on, but Philippe Gilbert was right there in it. Now, can he hang on, Paul? Because this is desperate moments as Gilbert tries to hang on. He's got just about 500 metres to go.
Yeah, but coming up in 3rd place looks like Cadel Evans as well, because coming around this final corner, Philippe Gilbert really had the acceleration. He's got to keep going though, because there's a long, interminable hill, and Cadel Evans is coming across the gap.
Oh, it's going to hurt the legs, but that's a result for Cadel Evans and for Philippe Gilbert. Win 14 for him. Cadel Evans has had a tremendous day. The favourite has got 2nd there, amongst the favourites got 2nd on a day the Contador has lost time. That's a big start now as the clock continues to count now. The seconds go by. Well, this is going to be a very unusual overall classification tonight, but there's no doubt the first maillot jaune will go to Philippe Gilbert.
But the time gaps have appeared. There's Contador over on the right-hand side with the yellow sunglasses.
He grits his teeth. He's got to keep going. The clock is counting against him here. So as they race up towards the line, that clock is enormous. Now, we don't know whether some of this, Andy Schleck is in this group as well. So at least Contador and Schleck go in tomorrow in the same time. It looks about 1:20. Contador now knows this has been a grim day in the Tour de France for him. Andy Schleck alongside him. Bradley Wiggins is there as well. So the big names finishing there. What a game for Evans.
They must have been involved in that 2nd crash, because Bradley Wiggins was riding right at the front end of the main field. So I have a feeling that Andy Schleck and Bradley Wiggins went down in the 2nd crash. But there's no doubt at all about the winner of the stage this afternoon, Philippe Gilbert of Belgium, and the champion to boot.
So the stage result gave us the first standings of the race. Gilbert 3 seconds ahead of an impressively strong-looking Cadel Evans, with the world champion Tuhusoft leading a pack of riders at 6 seconds down. Among them, Sky's Geraint Thomas. The likes of Andy Schleck, David Miller and Brad Wiggins were all in the 6-second group, but Alberto Contador, who remember won the Tour from Andy Schleck by only 39 seconds last year, was already trailing his chief rival by twice that. For the second year running, Geraint Thomas took the white jersey of leading young rider in the Tour's opening week, and he had a decent chance of converting it to yellow, because Stage 2 was one of Sky's specialities, the team time trial, a 23-kilometre loop around the small town of Les Essarts. Alberto Contador's Saxo Bank squad went first, set the not particularly challenging target of 25 minutes 16, and sat back to see how much more time their leader would lose. Robert Hazink's Rabobank team came in at 25 dead, and that was the best.
48 seconds, the clock has stopped.
24:48 would take some beating, and there were 4 teams left with a chance of beating it.
Bradley Wiggins leading him into the final 100 metres here.
It is very, very, very close. The 5th time now, 24:48 is the time. I think they might do this. It is going to be desperately close as they hit the line. They've just passed by. They've stopped the clock at 24:52. Second place for Team Sky. These boys are firing on all cylinders now. Every second really counts in this short team time trial today. It is going to be desperately close for third place, 24 minutes 53 for HTC High Road. And Fabian Cancellara is going to drag them up the finishing straight here. The best time is 24:48. That time has gone by, but it's a great finish. It is an incredible finish. They've held third, 24:53 for Leopard Trek.
Will there be a yellow jersey at the end of this for Cadel Evans? It's all going to be about the clock. The time to beat, 24:48.
They can see the line, but it is such a long way up to the finishing straight here. Evans has driven this race home. Second best time for BMC. 4 seconds the difference has swung it the way of Garmin Cervelo. Tomorrow they lead the Tour de France.
It was the first stage win for Jonathan Vaughters' outfit at their 4th Tour de France. That's a decent length of time for a team manager to work on his celebration. On the podium, his riders relieved him of the responsibility and cheered him off. The added bonus, of course, was that Touroussoft had taken the yellow jersey, with his teammate David Miller second on the same time. Cadel Evans' BMC team had delivered him to the line 1 second late, and Geraint Thomas was now 4 seconds back in 4th place, ahead of the Leopard Trek trio of Linus Gerdemann, Frank Schleck and Fabian Cancellara, and his own teammate Advald Bersen-Hagen, all on the same time. The same went for Andy Schleck in 10th place and Bradley Wiggins in 12th. Mark Cavendish was in a bunch of HTC riders 5 seconds down, and then the gap started widening. Alberto Contador's deficit had grown to 1 minute 42, and after a poor time trial ride from his Euskaltel team, Samuel Sanchez was 2:36 down after only 2 stages. While his teammates helped sedate Jonathan Vaughters, Touroussoft returned to the podium on his own to take the yellow jersey for the 3rd Tour de France of his brilliant career. And the next day he was going head-to-head with Mark Cavendish for the points at the intermediate sprint. More shoulder to head, really, given the size difference. It didn't look much to most of us, but both of them would later be disqualified from that sprint and have their points deducted. However, neither of them knew that as the race barreled towards the Stage 3 finish in Redon, with the HTC sprint train out at the front.
Martin, Goss, Renshaw, Cavendish is the order on the front. They've got 3 men to take them the last 2 and bit kilometres to the finish. Hushoff is in there too. Tyler Farrer is on Hushoff's wheel and would be a great lead out if Hushoff could give it to him. Also in there, I've noticed now coming up too, are the riders of Alessandro Pentacchi and also, of course, Andrei Greipel, all trying to get a little bit of space.
But to be a sprinter, to win a sprint, you've got to play a waiting game. Looks as if Tony Martin now has disappeared from the front. He's lost that little bit of energy. It's up now to Matty Goss. Big acceleration coming across. It looks like it's a rider from Vacansoleil has seen the move coming from Lamprey.
He's tried to launch an attack at the moment. This is a typical move, as Pavel Brut has made the move here. I think, in fact, it could well be a very, very shrewd move. This, I would think, is Boris Bocic, who we've seen win already this year. This is an absolute typical move by this man if he can do it. There aren't many strong men can ride away from a peloton so close to the finish.
When you're in a great team of sprinters, you've got to stay calm. When you see the moves going like this, you've got to just make sure you slowly continue with the plan that you've got in mind, and that's exactly what Matthew Goss is doing. Matty Goss is just sitting there. He's judging his effort on the rider from Vacansoleil, waiting to keep himself at the front end of the pack. Cavendish has let the gap go. There's a problem there, I think.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because there were so many riders and they were running out of firepower there on the run into the finish. We're only just over a mile out now as they try to reorganize themselves as they race towards the finish now. I think this is Boric who's tried to go Bosic, but in any case, he's going to be back in the pack. And they're getting themselves organised. Renshaw, solid as a rock, is still locked there in front of Mark Cavendish.
Well, the blue helmets on the shoulders, on the heads of the riders from Garmin-Cervelo, and they're looking over the shoulder. It's a bit of panic on board Team HTC High Road. Now, inside of 1 kilometre to go, Cavendish has slipped down to about 7th or 8th position. His team is a little bit in pieces as we start to try to get the organisation going again.
If Cavendish has slipped and lost the wheel, he's going to have to reposition himself in the next 900 metres, because Garmin-Cervelo, who won the team time trial yesterday, are all of a sudden on the front. That looks to me as though it's Geraint Thomas who has gone round the race there for Sky in the white jersey. And is this going to be a runaway for the Welshman? Because now is the launch, and the maillot jaune is Thor Hushoff. He's got tucked in the slipstream there. Tyler Farrer and Mark Cavendish has disappeared from our screen as Thor Hushoff now launches for the finish.
Well, Hushoff is going round the corner. Tyler Farrer is in 3rd position, right onto his wheel. It's Romain Feluba. Jose Rojas is coming up too.
Rojas is going, but this is going to be Tyler Farrer big moment. First Tour de France, he's going to have to hold off Rojas. They race for the line. It is desperately close, but Tyler Farrer gets it on the line. Garmin-Cervelo cannot do a thing wrong, but the question mark is, what happened to Mark Cavendish? It seemed to be going so well.
Cav, a little bit of bad luck there cost you that stage in the end.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, the guys did a great job, but I think, yeah, as usual, this Romain Filou, like he just causes havoc in every sprint. You know, coming into the corner, I had Rojas on one side, then Filou come the other. They just took my wheel, and I was on my front wheel around the last corner. I thought I was down at one point. I felt good at the finish, and you could see I was good by the fact I pulled back 40 metres and then 500, last 500. But yeah, I couldn't win it, but I managed to keep myself in contention for the green.
For now, the green jersey was with Jose Joaquin Rojas. The Mûr-de-Bretagne was billed as the Breton Alpe d'Huez, which was pushing it a bit, but it certainly looked steep enough to shake up the yellow jersey standings, especially since Cadel Evans needed only a second to take it off Tourousoft. But on the run into the finish, Evans was fighting not to lose time, twice held up by mechanical trouble and having to burn energy to get back to the main field, which he'd done by the time the race hit the wall.
Officially, we're on the climb of the wall now, the wall of Brittany, as they now all look at each other, and Philippe Gilbert has put himself right on the front. I don't think he wants to be there. Edvald Boysenhagen off to the left for Team Sky, looking for where his men are. His men will be Bradley Wiggins and Geraint Thomas.
Andy Schleck in the black and white jersey there, right in the middle, the taller rider. Locked on his wheel this afternoon is Alberto Contador. He's maybe a bit concerned about the possibility of an attack coming from the Luxembourger.
Oh, look at the face of Cadel Evans in the middle there. He knows that if he just opens a gap of a second, he'll be the leader of the Tour de France tonight. Others know if they open a gap of just 4 seconds or 5 seconds, they could be the leader of the Tour tonight. But at the moment, it's still Thor Hushoff in yellow down there.
We are now well into the Mûr-de-Bretagne. Look at the faces of these riders. This is a beast of a climb. It's only 2 kilometres long. Gilbert now in the polka dot jersey moving into 2nd place behind his own teammate Jürgen van den Broek.
This is not the Pyrenees, this is not the Alps, this is a small climb in Brittany, and all of the riders who are thinking of winning the Tour de France are locking horns here in the last mile of the day. Contador is gone, and if the riders don't look to the left, this little climber's out to grab some time back. The time they took out of him on Saturday on the first stage because he was left standing in the road. They're after him. Gilbert is the first to take up the cudgel.
Well, Gilbert saw that. He was waiting for a move. He's a very clever tactician. Cadel Evans is up into 4th position. The gap is starting to open. There's a rider there from Leopard Trek in 5th. Hushoft is about to be dropped, but he won't give up without a fight as Contador continues.
Dropped, Paul. He's hanging in, Hushoft is, because look at the face of Contador. He's made the effort, but he's looked over at his face, and he really has overshot himself here.
Well, Thor Hushoft has still not given up. He's dragging himself back in. Don't expect another attack to come. There's another attack coming, and Cadel Evans is going to cover it this time.
Well, Cadel Evans now marks the move here as we see Van den Broek up in the move as well. Cadel Evans knows he only wants 1 second advantage on the line to take yellow. 1
kilometre to go. You can see again that looks like another move coming from Sky. Alexander Vinokourov is up into second position. It's Bosenhagen.
Bosenhagen's looking over for Geraint Thomas, and he's not there at the moment, but he's not far down. Evans is on the left of our picture here now. But take your hat off to Thor Hushoft. He wasn't supposed to be here at this stage of the race. He's sitting there and he's staying in yellow at the moment. And with every pedal rev, he's going to feel good. This is Van den Broek who's now launching a move, who is the new climber on the block from Belgium.
Well, in third position, Philippe Gilbert got the grimace on his face. Alberto Contador dancing as he does on any slope around Europe, followed there by Alexander Vinokourov. Still, they have not dismissed the Norwegian. The god of thunder, Thor Hushoft, is still hanging on to that jersey.
Well, as Van den Broek goes again at 500 metres, this is looking extremely good for Philippe Gilbert at the moment. Down to 400 metres now. Evans is into fourth, and Contador has dropped back. He's really hurt himself on this climb, Contador, and so far has got nothing to show for it. Philippe Gilbert is now locked in on his 29th birthday. He looked over just as Contador went through. Cadel Evans is now taking his chance at Contador. Evans is now coming. A 1 second gap means yellow. They've got to jump onto his back wheel. Vinokourov is coming up. Bosenhagen grits his teeth. Gilbert is down into fourth place. But you take your hat off to the yellow jersey of the Tour de France, because I think Hushoft will be in yellow tonight. But Evans has got the victory, but Contador thinks he's got it.
Well, in the photo finish there, it was very close. Bradley Wiggins lost a couple of seconds there, quite possibly with Rojas coming across the line. What a ride by Thor Hushoft.
He's made the experts look completely silly, I think, because that was superb by the God of Thunder. He's kept his yellow jersey.
It was, what, a quarter wheel at the line, and remarkably, given the quality of his Tour career, Cadel's first stage win. Alberto Contador had made, if not a show of force, at least offered proof of life, and he'd stolen back 8 seconds on Andy Schleck and many of his other rivals, which might well come in handy down the line. Not on Jurgen van den Broek, though. He'd finished alongside Contador. And not on Bradley Wiggins either, not 8 seconds anyway. Brad came in 6 seconds down, having ridden off the front of a group containing Andy Schleck in the last 100 metres. Other than Cadel's, though, perhaps the ride of the day was Thor Hushoft's to hang on to the jersey when we all thought he'd lose it. Stage 5 was a nasty combination of fierce crosswinds, narrow roads and the usual large and nervous first week field. And you didn't need to be a tour expert, a weather expert or a question of sport expert to know what happened next.
Oh, Euskaltel has gone down as well. Somebody went down very hard from Euskaltel.
He looks as though he is being quite seriously stumped.
It's a bit of a crash here, and this is what happens on these nasty little roads.
There's another crash in
That's Nicky Sorensen, the champion of Denmark. He touched the wheel of somebody in front of him. He's very lucky to get that soft landing. Oh, another crash at the back. Here we go again. Everybody's going down.
It wasn't just the number of crashes on stage 5, it was the number of big names caught up in them. Brad Wiggins needed a bike change, which was about the least that anyone got away with. Robert Geesink went head over cleats in a crash. From Rich Radio Shack's Yanni Brajkovic didn't get up, not without help. Concussed and suffering a broken collarbone, he was the first possible podium contender out of the race. Alberto Contador didn't go out, but he did go down and had obviously gone over on his back too from the looks of his jersey. But at least he managed to rejoin the main field. Tom Bonen was riding just to avoid the time cut-off as the race swung onto the coastal road approaching Cap Fréhel for a dramatic finish.
1,000 metres to go, and it's Alessandro Pataki's team in control.
1,000 metres to go, and our motorbike could only just shake them off the back there because they were going so quickly, but Thor Hushoft is getting himself also into a perfect position here to finish it off for the yellow jersey. And just look at the acceleration here. And there's a move coming up on the inside.
Well, it looks like the acceleration of Tony Martin. Matty Goss there let the gap go, and then all of a sudden it puts the pressure on everybody else to try and close this down. Cavendish is a long way out.
This could be the move of Edvald Bosenhagen ripping away from the field. They were trying to organise themselves because this is an uphill finish all of the way as they race to the line here. They're slowly being hauled back, the gritting of the teeth of the maillot jaune. Rojas is out of it in the green jersey. This is going to be a desperately close finish at 300 metres to go. Even Philippe Gilbert on the left is getting it. Now the yellow jersey of Thor Hushovd is slowly but surely. Hushovd is getting on turn here now. Sandy Cassar is trying to get into the middle, and the race is off to the left of our picture as Cavendish comes. This is it, the missile is locked on to Philippe Gilbert. Has he got it on the line? Has he got it? The missile from the Isle of Man has got his first win of the 2011 Tour de France.
Phil, I told you he had the legs here this afternoon. He watched them, he knew you had to wait. Great ride by Philippe Gilbert to come up there into second place, and JJ Rojas getting third. Cavendish wants this. You can see by the expression on his face. Not an ideal kind of finish for Mark Cavendish, but when you're a sprinter, when you're a winner, you give it all.
That wasn't a bunch sprint, man. That was hard. That was real hard at the finish. Like proper hard, actually. Well, you see Gilbert was there, Hushovd was there, Rojas was there. And yeah, I thought like 1800 to go. The other sprinter teams came. Then you can see the likes of Brad and that were up there. So you can see what type of finish it was. Brad's going for it, it's a hard finish. He went 500 to go. Bearing around the left, I just seen 300. I thought I'll just go to save some points. But yeah, I had my jump, I had my acceleration, and it was proper hard actually at the finish. Them last couple of 100 meters, that was like my legs would go and go and go, you know. But I'm really, really happy with that.
And he had every right to be, given the nature of the run-in and the way he came through to take it. Stage win number 16 for Cavendish. Only Bernard Hinault and Eddy Merckx are ahead of him for victories over a 4-tour span. Stage 6 had some significant landmarks along the way, as the route took the riders close enough for a glimpse of Le Mont Saint-Michel. If not actually from the field, then at least on the heli shots when they watched the day's stage back at the team hotel. But the big focal point was the sight of the Basilica de Sainte-Thérèse, which the main field would see as they swung on to the climb up to the finish in Lisieux. Levi Leipheimer wasn't in the main field. He'd crashed and was fighting to limit his losses on the run-in. Neither were many of the sprinters, or at least they were lurking at the back. This was a stage for the puncheurs, men like Philippe Gilbert and Thor Hushovd.
The green jersey in our picture is being followed by the yellow jersey of race leader. So Hushovd has decided that Gilbert is the man, but Evans has got the best place on David Miller's back wheel.
Third place is Geraint Thomas, the Welshman. On his wheel, his own teammate, and that is Bosenhagen. They're all getting very nervous and twitchy now. As you can see, HTC High Road trying to drag Matty Goss up through the middle of this pack, but that's not a pack that's full anymore, Phil. There's a lot of riders being left behind. Alexander Vinokourov makes the move on the right in the turquoise jersey.
And sadly, I think Levi Leipheimer is losing real time here. He won't have rejoined the head of this race after that fall, which is very, very sad. But we've got an attack being launched here on the left of the road. This is Rabobank going strongly as they try to ruin it for everybody. Philippe Gilbert is in the green, Hushovd is in the yellow. Miller's been swept away here. Geraint Thomas is in second wheel. Is this young phenomenon from Wales going to finish it off with a win?
Well, Bosenhagen's in an ideal position in third position. Thor Hushovd in a great position in fourth as well as they start to wind it up. Bosenhagen goes on the inside.
He's having to take on his own teammates here now as he goes through for the line here. This could be the big surprise of the day. Edvald Bosenhagen is coming, but there's still plenty of kicks on the inside. Is this bad? He got no. Bosenhagen gets it. Team Sky have taken the result on the line.
Well, that was a good move there by Geraint Thomas, and this is the face of Edvald Bosenhagen. We've talked about this man for a long time, Phil, waiting to make the big breakthrough. Well, he's done it this afternoon, getting a great victory ahead of some of the top sprinters in the world. On the right-hand side there, Thor Hushovd, behind him, Philippe Gilbert. That was a great win by that team.
After their difficult debut tour last season, it felt as much a win for the team as the individual, although possibly not to Norwegian viewers, and it clearly meant a great deal to the Sky team boss Dave Brailsford.
Yeah, it feels really good. Yeah, really good, yeah.
Imagine Mark Cavendish winning a stage and Brad Wiggins taking the race lead, and you get some idea of how big Stage 6 must have felt in Norway, because while Edvald Bosenhagen wouldn't pull on the yellow jersey, another Norwegian would. Nonetheless, it was true, Thor Hushovd had ridden strongly again and was heading into a fifth day as race leader. The race itself was heading to Châteauroux, the site of Mark Cavendish's first ever Tour de France stage win, and he hoped also his 17th. After a wet and dangerous opening 6 days, the race was finally on flat, dry, featureless roads designed to do nothing more than get the race from Le Mans to Châteauroux, where Mark Cavendish was planning to indulge in some high-speed nostalgia by way of reliving his first ever Tour de France stage win from 2008. The only real warning was of crosswinds on the run-in, and the word went out for teams to move their key men up to the front out of harm's way.
We're going to start to see some very high speeds now, because there's another crash. That's the race radio telling me it's a crash.
I'm hearing.
Yep.
I don't know whether our pictures are going to give us them, but there's a crash. For here it is.
Well, that.
Oh dear.
Coppel has gone down. Well, this was at the back. There's Sylvain Chavanel, and just having a quick look to see if any of the big leaders have been caught out. Well, I was just about to say the race is currently picking up a very strong cross-tail wind, and that's going to be a reason for the main field to push the speeds up higher and above 50-55 kilometres an hour.
Right down, Bradley.
Wiggins has gone down, and he's involved in that crash somewhere. I can't see him on the ground there, but that is not too good for him. Boasson Hagen has gone down as well, and I'm picking this up from race radio, which is crackling in my ear. That's Wiggins in the middle, and he does not look very good at all, Wiggins. He's got a teammate alongside him, pushing off number 54 there. That's Tyler Farah, the sprinter from Team Garmin-Cervelo. Well, that crash happened right up at the front end of the pack, waiting there for Bradley Wiggins at the side of the road as his teammate. They're pushing off one of the riders from Katusha. Well, the chaos, it can happen any time, any moment. These riders have stopped at the side of the road. They're waiting for Bradley Wiggins. He's checking himself out. He is in the white jersey. The man alongside him there, just having a quick look, that's Boasson Hagen. Also there, Juan Antonio Fletcher. This is a bad moment. They're checking out Bradley Wiggins. He looked so good so far. Race doctor just checking him out. Well, doctor will check him out. He's got 3 teammates up alongside him. He's certainly the first thing the doctors always check, and it's the first thing really. There's 2 big injuries that happen to a bike rider. First of all, it's the collarbone that can get popped when you land on your hands, and it can go over, taking him to the side of the road. The other thing is a small bone in the hand, the scapula. Chris Horner has gone down as well. Well, this is not good for Team Radio Shack, and this will be the tour which has been. Oh dear me, oh dear me. This looks as if this is going to be the end of the Tour de France for Bradley Wiggins. He's in agony there.
Well, the pictures aren't good, Paul, are they? Bradley Wiggins has been taken to the side of the road there, and the ambulance has been called up. It looks like the end of the line for Bradley. That is terrible.
So guys, it's over for Bradley, okay? He's got a broken collarbone, I think. I'm way back behind Eddie, Fletcher, Knees, Rigoberto.
In the time it takes to touch wheels with the bike in front, Bradley Wiggins' tour chances were over the handlebars and on their way to hospital. His Sky teammates found themselves trapped on the wrong side of a growing split in the field, along with a handful of other big names.
There is absolutely no way that group is going to come back to the front of the Tour de France this afternoon, because you've got one of the best teams in the world lashing out the tempo.
The full squad of 9 riders are there now for one reason: to deliver Mark Cavendish to the missile base, which is the main street in Châteauroux.
I'll tell you one thing, watch out for the Radio Shack rider Andreas Kloden, because he has not missed out on the move once again. But what about HTC High Road? 9 riders at the front of the race, all waiting. Mark Cavendish on the left-hand side. If you count the white jerseys going down, the 9th rider is Cavendish.
And the group that's chasing behind is 80 strong, Paul. There's 80 riders in the Tour de France were somehow involved in that crash, which kept them by the roadside. Team Sky try their best here to keep this race under pressure. Boasson Hagen and Geraint Thomas are the big losers in this group at the moment. But I'm so sad to say that the big loser today is Bradley Wiggins, the British champion, who's crashed out with a suspected broken collarbone in a massive pile-up, which has forced 80 riders here to try and catch up with the race.
Yeah, Bradley Wiggins, we watched him early on in the season be very dominant in the Criterium du Dauphiné. What's this at the side of the road? This is Levi Leipheimer, again a mechanical incident. It's a back wheel flat tyre, taking his time to take it out. When Lady Luck leaves you, Phil, she really does do a runner. but HTC High Road now are being challenged by Leopard Trek in the middle. You've got the lines of all of these riders trying to get the organisation going. There's a line of riders from Team Katusha on the right-hand side, and they've got a great new sprinter, a young rider, Galimizianov, and he could create the surprise round the chicane.
Oh my goodness.
Watch out for the traffic furnace. She's splitting it up, putting it back together.
Thank heavens they're seeing what's going on here as they continue to drive this race on now. We're running into the last 4 kilometres of the day. And the gap is 2:14 to the chasers behind now. Now it's Peter Velit's turn at the front. They're slowly but surely using up the soldiers here. The last man is expected to deliver. It is a long 1.6 kilometre finishing straight after a sharp turn into it.
Phil, that last kilometre between 5 kilometres to go and 4 kilometres to go was covered in 60 seconds. That's 60 kilometres an hour, just inside of 40 miles an hour. We haven't even hit the acceleration for the sprint yet.
Well, the crowd now in Châteauroux are watching the arrival of the lead peloton in the Tour de France. They're going to see a second race coming in about 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
Peter Velits has done his job. He's got nothing left in the gas tank now. He swings off, but there are still 6 riders from HTC High Road at the front. Number 6 in the line will beat Mark Cavendish. Cavendish's wheel is covered at the back by Alessandro Patacchi. Just behind Patacchi, Jose Joaquim Rojas. But the boys have still got plenty of firepower. Velits hasn't gone to the back, Phil. He did a big turn at the front and he swung in to get behind the wheel of Bernie Eisel. They want the firepower with them for as long as possible. Renshaw is just in front of Cavendish. In front of Renshaw is Goss. And then Bernie Eisel today said, I'm going to do the long one at the front today, boys.
I think we are seeing the perfect lead-out train in operation at the moment. Mark Cavendish is the last man in white in the long straight line. Just in front is the rider from Bathurst in New South Wales. That is Mark Renshaw. Everybody says he's the fastest man and he could win for himself, but he loves to lead out Mark. That's his job. Watch the location of the green jersey of Philippe Gilbert and the yellow jersey of Thor Hushovd. When we finished here in 2008 and Mark Cavendish won, Thor Hushovd was the next best of the riders who are competing in the race today. He finished in 4th.
Bernie Eisel on the front in front of Peter Velits, then right up there as well, still in reserve, hasn't really turned the gas tank on yet, Tony Martin. They're now, Phil, inside of 2 kilometres. There's only 1 corner left. It's a right-hand sweeping bend, and then it's 1.5 kilometres, straight line down to the finish here in Châteauroux.
Huge effort by Bernie to make sure nobody could move up the peloton there, but he's sold his engine and he's dropped to the back. This is the sweeper. Now they will actually soon see the finishing line if they've got great eyesight. It's a mile in front of them, but once they get under that 1 kilometre to go, it is dead visible in a long straight line. Look at the width of this road.
Look at Tony Martin. This man can win an individual time trial. He's a challenger, possibly for a high finish in the Tour de France. But today, those thoughts are not in his mind. His thoughts are make sure you keep the pace nice and high. We don't want any challenge to come from the other sprinters like Gilbert, like Greipel, like Thor Hushovd in the yellow jersey over to the right-hand side. They're going to keep this pace nice and high. And Phil, as they come inside the final kilometre, they have still got the firepower on this race. 55 seconds for that final kilometre. Andre Greipel is right up there, and wouldn't he like to beat Mark Cavendish, but he's a long way back.
Well, they've got to watch out for this Russian sprinter, Denis Glanizhamov, because he is there. He's in 5th or 6th wheel, and that's the guy flicking his arm. He's a newcomer to the Tour de France. He's a fast finisher now. The yellow jersey of Hushovd is brilliantly placed. He's not pushing it, but he's waiting and watching. And now we're getting down to the final run. We've got 2 riders left before it's Cavendish's turn to go. And everybody, look at them, are scrambling to grab the back wheel of Mark Cavendish.
Roman Feyu has come up through the inside there. He's ducking and diving like a man possessed. Gossing now started the sprint. He swings off. He's now up to Mark Renshaw. Still locked into position there is Mark Cavendish. He's waiting for the moment to pounce.
Is the launch for the line of the missile as Renshaw has said, OK, it's down to you, Mark. Mark is now having to go for a long sprint, but what's the left of the road? That's Greipel on the left of the road. Cavendish grips his teeth, but Cavendish gets it. Greipel will be in 2nd place. Ali Jet on the right will be in 3rd. Mark Cavendish relives his youth. He won here in 2008, and he's come back and he's won again. And that now is stage win number 17 in history.
Phil, let's have a look at this, because this is textbook. This is from the handbook, absolutely perfect. Matty Goss set him up with 350 metres to go, pulls out. Look at the acceleration of Greipel on the right-hand side. You can just see that's a great move by him. All of a sudden, Cavendish says, thanks, Mark, I'm coming up now to try and get myself in and out of the way there. He must have been surprised by the acceleration of Greipel, his former teammate, now an adversary, but this is the moment. Cavendish has got the afterburners glowing here, throws it to the line, no contest. Alessandro Pataki's up there looking pretty good. It's second, I don't know, second or third for Greipel and Pataki, and Felu right in there in fourth.
As usual, and with perhaps even more reason than usual, Cav waited at the finish line to thank his teammates. What hadn't been relayed to him in the mad dash for the line was the news about his British Olympic teammate.
The other British star in this race, Bradley Wiggins, has had to abandon today, a broken collarbone, suspected.
No.
Breaking news to you, did you know that?
I didn't know that, no. Where did he crash? Intermediate sprint?
40k, he crashed and that was it. Your reaction?
Well, I'm gutted for him, really gutted. He's on the baby in the best form of his life, you know. And we could have brought home a sprint, perhaps a sprint jersey and a yellow jersey. He was really on for GC, I tell you. People might doubt him, but I've never seen him on form like this. I'm gutted for him, actually, really gutted for him.
On any other day, the big news would have been the good news, Mark Cavendish's 17th Tour stage win. But on this day, the bad news was bigger. And once the podium protocol was over, it was off to the hospital. Although the English patient was already checking out and heading home.
Yeah, I think everyone was just jostling for the front. It was constantly told in the radio that we got to stay in the front, got to stay in the front. There's a risk it could split at any minute. I think everyone was being told that. And when you've got 200 riders, odd riders that are trying to stay in the front, on small roads like that, yeah, it was always going to happen. So it's just one of them things, you know.
The finish of stage 8, like the finish of almost every other stage on this race so far, was uphill. But this was a hill of a different magnitude from anything the riders had faced in week 1, more than 1,200 metres up to the ski station at Super Besse Sancy. Bradley Wiggins had disappeared from the top of the standings overnight, of course, because of his crash. So too had his Sky teammates Geraint Thomas and Edvald Boasson-Hagen, the three of them replaced by Jakob Fuglsang, Andy Schleck and Tony Martin. No change at the very top. Tourusoft still had the single-second advantage over Cadel Evans he'd been holding on to since the team time trial on stage 2, although this was the day that even he conceded it would be likely to slip away. Approaching the finish, Rui Costa of Movistar and Portugal had attacked off the front of the day's breakaway and looked like holding on for a great solo win. Behind him, Evans, Contador and the Schlecks were in a select group at the front. So was a large blonde figure in a yellow jersey.
This is the tester now. The top 3 names of previous tours are riding right in the shadow of the 3-times champion. He's checked them both out. Also moving right up behind him is Jurgen van den Broek, and Gilbert says, I can do it just as well as you can. And Philippe Gilbert jumps clear now, grits his teeth. I don't think he can reach the leaders. It is just a little hill too far for him. But there is the acceleration of the champion of Belgium.
Well, it's a little bit like the finish at the top of the Kouwberg in the Amstel Gold Race, which he won in the month of April. Alberto Contador goes again, and Andy Schleck right on his wheel, followed by Cadel Evans. Tony Martin will see that line of riders and accelerate onto the back of it. And watch out, Phil, for Frank Schleck, because he's looking very comfortable about 5th or 6th position. Damiano Cugnaux.
Cugnaux has launched his attack now. The boys have tamed Contador, and they're not going to attack him, but everybody else is having digs now. Another acceleration has gone. Could have been Tony Martin who's gone. Cadel has now gone, and look at Contador's got to react to that. I'm not sure Contador's as sharp as he appears here. He's having to work very hard. Andy Schleck is happy to just follow.
It's all pretty psychological for the moment, Phil, as Rui Costa now is inside of the last 350 metres. I'm looking down through the haze of the exhausts of the motorbikes there to see whether or not he's going to survive. He's done it.
It's all over. He punches the sky. The Portuguese rider gets the victory today. They don't get many in the Tour de France. Rui Costa has done it, but the clock will start, and Gilbert has gone up for 2nd place here, with the sprint very much on for 3rd place, and Cadel Evans has still got the fight to get over the line in 3rd place. Now, there won't be a time gap, and there won't be a change in the overall lead either, because Thor Hushoff, this incredible man, is still in yellow, and he's smiling. Gosh, I don't blame him.
Tour was still smiling as he climbed the podium to take his 7th consecutive yellow jersey of a race that was only 8 stages old, as much in disbelief as anything else.
I did not believe that I could keep a yellow jersey up on top of Superbest, because we're only 1 second ahead of a rider like Carhaix 11s. It's not easy, so yeah, today again I surprised myself.
Stage 9 looked like being a long day on damp roads in the Massif Central, and with 8 mountains to tackle, it was a day that consisted almost entirely of climbing and descending. Alberto Contador did manage to go down on one of the few stretches of flat early in the race, a minor incident that only looked more minor as the race progressed.
And this is a very sad sight. We've cut back to the main field here.
There's a rider from Omega Pharma Lotto down there. It's a big, tall rider. He's being looked after by Andre Greipel. Again, you can see
there's also 2 riders from Team BMC there stopping by the roadside as well here. Somebody's gone straight off the road and down into the trees there. And once again, the Radio Shack boys are in the thick of it here.
That's Andreas Kloden on the right-hand side. Bad luck continues for Radio Shack.
Yeah, they're looking down there to see who went down there as an Astana rides. Still more down there. At least 2 or 3 riders are down that ditch. But Andreas Kloden, he was the new leader of Radio Shack because he was the only one left with a chance, and now he's been claimed by a crash. Well, this is an amazing tour. They just found a place, a hole on the trees there, and through it they went.
I can only assume that was Alexander Vinokourov, because otherwise the whole of Team Astana, Phil, would not be stopped at the side of the road like this, and I think he was stuck to his bike. That's why they were trying to lift him up.
Well, that's Andrei Grifko who's trying to hold. That looks like Vinokourov there, who's being held out of the ditch. The man who was trying to pull off the stage, well, that's certainly Alexander Vinokourov. Took a nasty bang, I think, on his back. He's been also helped out here by Vaitkus, who is behind him.
Well, this was in a straight part of the road, and you could see the main field really giving it some hammer on the descent there. There's the riders who've stopped alongside him.
Di Gregorio is 62, Dmitry Fofanov is 63. The whole team has waited here. None has gone forward, and this doesn't look to me as though Vinokourov is going to be able to carry. The doctors are now with him. I think the problem is not his back, I think it's his right leg.
The official word on Vinokourov was a broken right femur, although there was talk that his injuries might be even worse. Also out was Omega Pharma Lotto's hope for a podium place, Jurgen van den Broek. He'd broken his shoulder blade, while his teammate Frederick Willems had a suspected broken collarbone. For David Zabriskie, it was his wrist that was fractured. 1 crash, 4 riders on their way to hospital. But as bad as it was, at least that was a racing incident, an unavoidable fact of life as a professional cyclist. What happened to 2 members of the day's 5-man break was in a category of its own.
Now, what's Voigtler doing here now? Well, something's happened back there. What's going on?
Well, I'm not quite sure.
Somebody stopped, I think.
Yeah, a little bit of chaos. Just having a quick look here.
In fact, there's been a crash here. Oh, goodness me, that hit the side of the car.
Gee.
And that was the French television car going by him there.
Well, that was ridiculous. Well, they've got to get themselves back together, and that car came in and just whacked that rider. Normally the car drivers in the Tour de France are experienced ex-professional cyclists, but that is bad luck for the breakaway. And tell you what, that guy went down extremely hard, and that was Juan Antonio Fletcher.
Well, you know, what happened to the motorbike when Nicky Sorensen, the champion of Denmark, was knocked off by a photographer's motorbike the other day. He was sent off the tour completely, and I think the same might happen to that car now.
Well, that was Hugeland who went over the top of Fletcher and ended up in the field. There's a little bit of discussion going on here. They're calling for a medical car to come forward. These 3 riders now have been... let's have a look at it one more time.
Well, he's been caught in a wired fence there, so he'd be ripped to pieces going into that fence, Johnny Hugeland.
Yeah, what happened there was the team car was coming by. There was a tree in the side of the road. The car tried to come around the tree. Should have actually hit the brakes at a situation like that.
Amazingly, both Juan Antonio Fletcher and Johnny Hugeland got back on their bikes. Their ambitions suddenly recalibrated from perhaps winning the stage to staying out of hospital and in the race. That piece of spectacularly poor driving left 3 men in the day's break: Thomas Voigtler, Sandy Cazar and Luis Leon Sanchez. Such was their lead that Voigtler was assured of taking the yellow jersey. The question was whether he could take the stage win as well.
And look at this, Voigtler has pushed them out in front. He's now riding behind them. He is going to attack these riders, and here he goes. That was a perfect move, and he's put it in. And Luis Leon Sanchez saw his shadow, Paul, and got the kick on him.
Well, he knew that was the moment to move, and Luis Leon Sanchez has got the power in those legs. Thomas Voeckler could not get onto his slipstream, Phil, and it looks like the Spaniard is going to get himself another victory at the Tour de France as Voeckler comes round. It's going to be a yellow jersey for Voeckler. He dreamed of the stage victory.
And in his favourite area here is Luis Leon Sanchez. He gets the victory. The clock will start now, and that's when we'll find out just by how much Thomas Voeckler leads the Tour de France when we restart from Aurillac on Tuesday.
The exact timings didn't matter to Tourousoft. He knew his run was up and used the final few hundred metres to take credit for his fighting week in yellow. So here's how the standings look at the end of 9 days of racing. Thomas Voeckler is the new race leader by 1 minute 49 from the man who beat him to the stage win, Luis Leon Sanchez. Cadel Evans is the best of the big names, third at 2 minutes 26. Then it's the Schlecks, Tony Martin, Peter Velits and Andreas Kleurden. Further back, Ivan Basso is 11th, Nicolas Roche 13th, Robert Geesink 15th and Alberto Contador 16th. Having lost his yellow jersey, Tourousoft is down to 24th, David Miller, his teammate, is 28th, Geraint Thomas 32nd and Ben Swift 118th. On any other day, a French yellow jersey on a tour that hasn't produced much home success would have been the podium picture of the day. But on this day, it was the sight of Johnny Hogeland, a man who might easily have died 50 minutes earlier, surviving the stage to take the polka dot jersey, and then having the composure, once he'd wiped away his tears and regained his composure, to talk like this.
It's horrible. I can blame everyone, but I think no one do this on purpose. I think the people in the car will have a very big guilty feeling, and they will for sure apologize to me. And Peugeot came to me and he apologized, and it should not be happened, but it's always possible something happens like this, and I can nobody blame for this. It's a horrible accident and I was in it. But I just say to Fletcher, I say we're still alive, and Weiland died in the crash. I have three this kind of hitches, so I go to the hospital. I think I get 30 stitches or something.
Well, let's hope the combination of those stitches and the rest day allow him to recover well enough that he can continue in the race and actually enjoy the jersey he risked so much for. Crashes, of course, are part of cycling, but they don't usually involve motor vehicles. Coming after the camera bike that took down Nicky Sorensen on stage 5, that's 2 in 9 days on this year's tour, and they prompted a review of race safety from a contrite tour director.
2 accidents sur les routes du Tour de France en quelques jours dus aux médias. L'accident avec un photographe et maintenant l'accident avec cette voiture d'assistance technique, c'est évidemment 2 accidents de trop, et nous prendrons les mesures qui s'imposent. On va se réunir demain lors de la journée de repos, mais c'est un scandale, oui. Et je ne peux que présenter mes plus plates excuses aux équipes et aux coureurs qui ont été blessés dans la chute, heureusement pas trop gravement.
La course, elle est faussée.
Well, we'll wait to see what that review produces, but what we do know is that the driver of this French television car, whichever one of these 2 it was at the time, will not be on the race when it resumes tomorrow. Philippe Gilbert will be, and he's looking like a strong contender for the green jersey competition, having stretched his lead to 45 points over second place Jose Joaquin Rojas and to 64 over Mark Cavendish in third. The king of the mountains, as we've seen, is Johnny Hogeland, and injuries permitting, he has a chance of keeping it for a couple of days, at least until the real climbing starts in the Pyrenees. Robert Geesink holds on to the white jersey he took from Geraint Thomas on stage 6 when Geraint waited for Bradley Wiggins. Rein Taaramäe looks like Geesink's big rival for that. Geraint himself is now 5th. Now, if your memory is anything like mine, you're fine for a while, but then the race reaches a critical mass, the stages start to congeal and you can't remember what happened when. So before we start, let's remind ourselves of the state of play coming out of the first rest day. Apologies if you think this has been replayed to death, but it was the big story coming out of stage 9. Juan Antonio Fletcher hit by a French television car and Johnny Hogeland sent flying into a barbed wire fence. Hogeland was cut to ribbons, but got up not just to finish the stage, but take the polka dot jersey as King of the Mountains leader. His tears multiplied by as many millions as there were watching on television. Now, the good news was that after 33 stitches, 36 hours of rest and several thousand internet proposals of marriage, Hogeland was able to start stage 10 in the King of the Mountains jersey. Thomas Voeckler was also enjoying his first day in the yellow jersey this year, his first in fact since 2004, having taken it on stage 9. This is how the standings looked coming out of the rest day. Thomas Voeckler had a lead of 1 minute 49 from Luis Leon Sanchez. Cadel Evans was the best of the overall contenders, ahead of the Schlecks, who lined up in order of seniority. Frank at 2 minutes 29, Andy at 2:37. Philippe Gilbert was the only other man within 3 minutes of the lead, ahead of the likes of Ivan Basso, Damiano Cunego, Nicolas Roche and the injured Robert Geesink. Alberto Contador was 16th, 4 minutes and 7 seconds down, and Samuel Sanchez was 20th at 5:01. Stage 10 took the race south from Aurillac to Carmaux in the Tarn, getting closer to the Pyrenees. Still, it was a flat stage, and Mark Cavendish was looking for his third win and 45 more green jersey points as he looked to make up ground on the leader Gilbert.
As we go under 10 kilometres to go with the peloton now, we are looking at just 14-second spread on the field in the Tour de France. It is Garmin Cervelo who's got control of the front now.
There's so much firepower in this breakaway, and they could be dragging Tony Galopin in the red and white jersey of Cavendish here, Phil, to a French victory.
More speed required, says Thomas Voeckler. Tony Martin says, well, you come in front of me then. He says, no thanks, I'm going behind you. The Union flag of Great Britain indicating there that the headwind now might be having its effect. They're all dodging on the back wheel of Gilbert, but nobody seems able to go and give the Belgian a hand. And Jens Voigt is trying desperately now to bring the rest of the race into contact.
Well, a little move here by David Ince as he tries to split up the group. He probably realised it's starting to come back now, Phil. We're looking at 7 seconds. There's the main field. These are very desperate moments. Ooh, and poor old Philippe Gilbert, he's probably got an awful lot of lactic acid in those thighs.
Now goes a move by Euskadi on the right. They haven't got a real sprinter, but they certainly got some opportunities to try and go. It looks to me like Izagir has made a move here. Philippe Gilbert gritting his teeth here. He heard the time check had just gone up a shade to 10 seconds, and he's gone again.
Well, you know, this man is having an incredible season, and he's having an incredible Tour de France. He has literally ridden the other riders in the breakaway right off his wheel. Tony Martin is going back to the main peloton, and I think that will be a big advantage for Mark Cavendish, because Tony Martin is a powerful man, a powerful part of the lead out for HTC High Road. The peloton still haven't got themselves back to Philippe Gilbert. If he wins this one, this is going to be an incredible victory. And they must be wondering, Phil, what can we do to pull back Philippe Gilbert?
Well, he's got himself into his time trial mode now. He's looking lazily onto the handlebars, as streamlined as he can. They are still on this long descent here. They're absolutely flying into Carmaux.
Well, he's got himself still 12 seconds advantage over the peloton, and it's a bit of panic on board, I think, in the peloton this afternoon.
Well, Philippe has just hit the one little uphill there before we continue our way down to the bottom, and that is where the peloton have used it. There is Mark Cavendish, fourth man in white to the right. Rocas is just behind Cavendish as well. So HTC High Road are now getting control of the race, as again we now see an attack from Perez. Alain Perez has launched an attack.
Well, another slight move coming here from Vacansoleil, but just look at the organisation of HTC High Road. They're not panicking. They don't want to respond to any of these attacks. They want to keep a steady tempo, because if you accelerate, that really is bad for the sprinters. That's the American rider TJ Van Garderen setting the tempo on the front of the pack, but lined up behind him are all of the HTC High Road lead-out squad.
Well, the one man missing from HTC High Road, surprisingly, is Matty Goss. He's just been dropped by this group and is now behind the race. So I'm a bit surprised at that, but he's not having a good day after that rest. The others are all here and working for Cavendish. Again, Mark Cavendish has surprised us. On a hilly day, this pure sprinter has survived to looking likely now to fighting out the finish.
Well, very often, Phil, people say Cavendish can't climb, but bear in mind, you don't win Milan-San Remo if you can't climb.
That is the longest one-day race at over 300 kilometres, 180 plus miles, straight down from Milan to San Remo. Now, no help coming here.
When you come down to the end of a race like this, it's quite easy to make that first initial attack to get off the front of the peloton, but then all of a sudden you get smacked with the wind in your face, and the difficult thing is actually continuing that effort. There are not many riders in the peloton who can actually ride off a main field as they come down to the last 4 or 5 kilometers of a race like this. And in fact, the riders who can do it could do it, I should say, were riders like Lyatislav Ekimov, who did that a number of years ago to win a stage of the Tour.
We are looking for 3 kilometers to go here as Biel Kadri tries his move. The peloton, it'll disturb them that they're so far ahead, just coming up for 3 kilometers to go. But just now, HTC High Road have got a lot of firepower down there, and they've got the missile up the chute just behind them all.
Well, Biel Kadri's another local rider from this part of the world, so he'll be riding in front of a home crowd this afternoon. His mum actually owns a cake shop not too far away from where the race went through this afternoon. She's got a television in the cake shop, so she doesn't miss any moment of the Tour de France this year.
3 kilometers to go. Now, Mark Cavendish knows, and we certainly know because we drove in, that the last kilometre has 2 extremely sharp bends on it. And Cav will want to keep himself out of trouble, that's for sure.
The rider from the Lampre team there, Phil, over on that far side there, in fact, is the replacement sprinter. That's Danilo Hondo.
This is either David, I think this is rider Hejerdal here, has just made a move. No, Miller. It is Miller, opportunist, having a go.
Well, this is the kind of move that David Miller has used many, many times in the past. Now, he is the kind of rider who has the ability to keep this sustained effort off the front end of a main field when they're charging into town. But there's organisation in that peloton this afternoon, and these are big, wide roads, and they'll be touching speeds in excess of 40 miles an hour. Miller will be looking for those corners and hoping he can get round there before anybody else. 2 kilometres left to go.
But this is a great move by Miller. This has taken the pressure off his team. Garmin Cervelo are trying to set up, I think, now for their world champion Thor Hushovd, and so while he settles down, the peloton led by Tony Martin brings back David Miller.
Well, Tony Martin is the man who's doing all of this pacemaking to keep it nice and high. They do not have an organised lead-out train for Mark Cavendish this afternoon. Onto his wheel, it looks very much like they're trying to place Andre Greipel in 4th position.
Well, the race radio, if you could hear it now, is shouting at everybody because they're getting in the way and they're very concerned about this last kilometre. The motorcycles have been told to get away from the race completely. We can't see any in our picture as they line up with 1 kilometre to go. And this is where you've got to hold on to your hats here. There are 2 very sharp bends, but it looks as though at least Team HTC High Road have got good control of the front of the race.
Well, Tony Martin swung off now, and in fact it's Omega Pharma Lotto are keeping the pace nice and high because their man Andre Greipel is up into 4th position, bumping and barging. That's Greipel right on the wheel of Mark Cavendish. The 2 former teammates, now big rivals.
Well, they've got through the S's here. There's still a sharp left-hander in the last 300 metres. Thor Hushovd, who's about 4th place on the right with those dark glasses on, has got himself into a great position. This is the sharp turn here. As they come round the corner now, they've got a perfect lead up for the line. Now it is up to see if the sprint can come, and I don't see Mark Cavendish getting in on this one now. Watch out for Rockhouse. There he goes. He popped out of the shadows, and just look at the speed of this man. He sees the finish. Wait for it. He's being challenged by Greipel. He looks at Greipel. He grips again. And on the line, Greipel this time has got the better of Mark Cavendish, and that was a terrific sprint. The 2 arch rivals who are teammates have now gone 2-1 up in this year's Tour de France in the favour of Mark.
That was an incredible sprint by Andre Greipel, and how much has he enjoyed that? And more sweet because he's beaten to the line Mark Cavendish.
Absolutely, that will go down as a being very, very, very special for Andre Greipel. The presence of Mark Cavendish over the years has kept Greipel out of the Tour de France to such an extent Greipel had to change teams, and the result is he's pipped Mark Cavendish right on the line.
I'm disappointed. I feel I made a mistake, but you know, Greipel beat me, so there's not an excuse I can say about that.
After the stage 7 sprint, where Greipel's surge had faded before the line, this made it 1 each in head-to-head competition. But on a wet stage 11, Cav got his chance to make it 2-1.
10 Ks from the finish for the 6 leaders, 31 seconds the gap. The chase is on, the rain is on, at least it's beginning to ease at the finish. They might get an okay finish after all. The skies are brightening very quickly. All the work being done by the riders of HTC High Road.
That is Matty Goss. He's normally a lead-out man for Mark Cavendish. They're having to use all of their firepower here to pull it back to the fold. Just going to the back. This is Lars back. That's not a surprise, Phil. He's done an incredible job of work throughout the whole of this stage with Danny Pate.
The rain has started on the course again. Look at this now. It's ironically, it's gone off at the finishing line. It's moved up the road and it's hit the riders. Look at the face on the right there. Fabian Cancellara trying to protect the Schleck brothers. Andy just behind him there. Well, the problem is now these boys haven't given up. Hey, that's not in the script. They're supposed to give up now and go back into the field. They refuse to do that. 6 kilometres to go. They've only lost 6 seconds since 10 kilometres to go of their lead. Now, this is making it extremely difficult for HTC High Road because they are using too many men to close the gap to the leaders and therefore losing the men who will lead out Cavendish for the finish. And it's going to be a difficult sprint for all of the sprinters now.
Well, these guys now are going to be starting to think, right, this is a possibility of a victory here this afternoon, so somebody may well try to make a move on the run in towards the finish. Finally, HTC have got some help. It's the pale blue and pink jerseys of Team Lamprey. And just at the back there, and the wheel of Mark Cavendish, you can see a rider on a lime green bike, and that, of course, is Alessandro Petacchi.
Well, it took a while, but at last Lamprey has realised the seriousness of this situation. They have a big sprinter in Alessandro Petacchi, but they finally put 2 boys on the front to help out. Fletcher, the man that crashed in that terrible accident a couple of days ago, now slipping towards the back of the race here.
But as we're getting closer to the finish now, the urgency coming into the teams of the sprinters, they do not want to get cheated of their chance of glory this afternoon, because after this, it's into the high mountains and they will be into the Autobus, the group of riders at the back of the Tour de France who struggle to survive.
A tall figure in black has come through now, replaced Simon Gerrans for Sky, is Christian Knies, the German man, former German champion on their squad. These are the leaders, still getting on with the job in hand, and agonisingly slowly, the big pack is pulling them back. The clock is saying 15 seconds now, 5 kilometres to go to the finish. They're getting desperate in the peloton, the road's remaining quite narrow as you run down towards the finish in Lavaur.
9 seconds is the official gap between the 6-man leading group and the front end of the main field, and it's still under the control of Team Lamprey. Big move now coming from Lars Boom. This is a last desperate ditch effort.
4.5 kilometres. Mikel Delarge is really digging deep for the energy, and a little bit of an attack going there by Ruben Perez. No, it's by Bohm himself who's made the move. And Lars Bohm now, is he going to ride alone to the finish and fool the sprinters at their own game? This guy can do it. He's the time trial champion of Holland. He's also a terrific man against the watch.
Well, he's the one rider in that breakaway who could possibly create the surprise. He knows how to master this very explosive effort. He's learned that from cyclocross in the winter, because probably the most important kilometre in the cyclocross race, Phil, is the first kilometre. You've got to go out to the starting gate and get yourself into the first difficulties in the first positions. Lamprey now taking over some help. There's Bernie Eisel sitting in second position. Behind him it's Tony Martin. Behind him it's Mark Renshaw. The black and white jerseys on the right-hand side of HTC High Road are, of course, Team Leopard Trek. That's Fabian Cancellara locked on his wheel, as if he's a limpet mine locked onto a submarine, is Andy Schleck.
For inside 4 kilometres to go for Lars Bohm now, as he ties the time trial away from the field, which will take some doing. He's going to have to hit 50 kilometres an hour at least and hold it now as he runs down to the finish. This is everything or nothing for him. As he pushes on now, the peloton are slowly wrapping it all up behind him, as out of the Mûr comes about 160 cyclists racing in a long straight line towards Lavaur.
Well, Andre Grivko, he's back in the folder. Ruben Perez is resisting a fraction, only about 50 yards off the front end of this main field. And Lars Boom really has put in a solid effort. There you can see the remnants of the breakaway. It's now, they're going to get swept up. That will leave just one man off the front of the peloton here this afternoon. And one man who could create the massive surprise and outwit the sprinters, Lars Boom.
3 kilometres to go as they pass under the banner. Everybody is back except one man. So the breakaway went 13 kilometres in. Most have been caught at 3 to go. Lars Bohm is still disrupting the thought of the sprinters here, as the workhorses from their teams are still having to try to reel this man in.
His legs are burning now with the lactic acid that's starting to build up in them. As you can see, the concentration on the faces of these riders. Fabian Cancellara is not thinking about sprint victories this afternoon. All he wants is to make sure that Andy Schleck is comfortably and safely taken to the finishing line. It's Bernie Eisel doing a man against man, trying to pull himself back to the wheel of the Dutchman Lars Boom.
Just notice Mark Renshaw there sitting in front of Mark Cavendish, just keeping him safe and sound on the left of our picture. And that's it now. We all come together at just over 2 kilometres from the finish. The sprinters have it now as they line up for the finish. And High Road have still got a few riders here, but only 3 of them. The middle man is Mark Renshaw. Tony Martin leads, and Cavendish is checking out who's around him. Well, I can tell him that Rockass is getting rather close to him and looking for the perfect lead out.
David Miller now comes to the front in the blue helmet. Behind him it's Tor Hushoff. That obviously means that the sprinter for Team Garmin-Cervelo this afternoon is going to be Tyler Farrar, the American. He should be in 3rd position there. It's still a very long way to go to the line.
Another demonstration of how to ride a great time trial by the Scot here, David Miller. He really is superb at this sort of a run. They're looking now at 1.5 kilometres to go. Farrar is the man on the far right, battling to get into the line.
Julian Dean trying to get himself in front of his team leader here. Julian Dean, the pilot fish there, floating in the wind is the 1 kilometre flag. The main field is under the control of our Garmin-Cervelo. David Miller will do a long turn. He will try and leave the last lead out to Tor Hushoff, who's there in his World Championship jersey, and now getting himself into that line is Julian Dean, the Kiwi. Zigging and zagging on
dodgy riding going on the right there with the elbow going out, as we see now Sky coming through in the middle here. Sky are going to get mixed up with this one today as they now get under that 1 kilometre to go. Are they getting control of the peloton for the British squad?
Well, Team Sky now riding alongside the team of Garmin-Cervelo. It's Julian Dean who's on the front of making a massive big turn here. Slipping back into about 4th position is Tor Hushoff.
Now, as they line up for the finish now, Greipel is also in the mix here again. He's going to look for Mark Cavendish. Tyler Farrar has got himself too early on the front on the right now as they open up the sprint on the left here. Cavendish is 3rd in line. Renshaw is waiting to lead Cavendish. That's off the final bend. Now Renshaw goes. He's got the Max missile locked into his back wheel. Tyler Farrar has gone onto the wheel of Cavendish, and Farrar has gone onto the wheel of Cavendish, but Cavendish doesn't care. Here he comes, Mark Cavendish and Andre Greipel. He looks at Greipel, he grips again. Oh boy, revenge is very, very sweet as Cavendish wins. Greipel gets 2nd and Farrar gets 3rd. Well, it just took 24 hours to get your own back.
Well, that was a perfect lead out once again by Mark Renshaw of Australia to put Mark Cavendish in the right position to just accelerate and catapult himself to the finishing line. There's the yellow jersey of Thomas Vogelfield, so there'll be no more change in the overall standings. Cavendish, Greipel, right up there as well, Tyler Farrar.
Well, a tremendous result of pure sprinters, and it was see, Mark Cavendish missed his man yesterday in Mark Renshaw, who was dropped on the final climb and couldn't take him to the line. But it's all back to status quo now as Mark Renshaw delivered the missile to a perfect liftoff, and he's just pipped Andre Greipel in the sprint.
Were you aware of Andre Greipel on your wheel and when he made his move, his effort?
No. I just went, today I just said I'll kick. I don't care who's there, I kick. And when I kick, normally I'll get a gap and I'll win. And that was all I wanted to do today. It was quite dangerous. The finish one rider, like it was so close. It was Filou. I'm not saying the same like I did last time. It wasn't dangerous, but we were so close together that his wheel caught on the ratchet of my shoe. My shoe came undone with 500 to go. I had to stop. If you watch the overhead, you see me take my buckle and put it back in my shoe again. And have to do up with 500 to go, you know.
And you got the green jersey. Did you know that?
Oh, have I? Oh, lovely. Oh.
Not bad. Go up there.
Having got the jersey, he kissed it. Been watching too many football matches. The question was, how many points would Cav concede to Philippe Gilbert in the mountains, where the intermediate sprints would be less about speed than the ability to get over any climbs that might come before them? Well, that was one question. The bigger one was who would come to the fore in the race for the yellow jersey on the Tour's first Pyrenean stage, which featured the Col du Tourmalet and a summit finish up at the ski resort of Les Ardiden. As it happened, the stage 12 sprint was well before the first climb, and Cavendish won it behind the day's breakaway to pad his lead by a few points. In the day's break was Geraint Thomas, who at one stage had a lead of more than 6 minutes, enough to be the yellow jersey on the road. At the top of the first climb, that was down to 5 minutes 38. And then the descent began.
Oh my goodness me, he's crashed. He just lost his pedal on the curve. Thank heavens there was a space between the cars.
Ooh, there's a crash. There's a massive
There's
pile-up.
another crash there on the same corner. Riders going. The roads must be very, very greasy.
Well, what happened there was, in fact, Thomas Vogler went round the corner. He put his brakes on, he corrected it, and then he had to pick himself up again.
The yellow jersey, who was the first to go down, was also among the first up and back in the race, although he had to give up his matching bike for a spare with a standard factory paint job. Andreas Kloden had come off much worse, and for a while it looked as though Radio Shack might be down to 5 riders, as he needed rolling treatment at both sides of the medical car. Brakes and nerves steadied, Geraint Thomas got back to the breakaway group after his off-road detours and actually attacked off the front of it alone on the Col du Tourmalet. It was an heroic effort from G, but it was a tough stage to choose, and inevitably he was caught 6.7 kilometres from the summit of Les Ardiden, leaving the remainder of the climb to the first exchanges between the favourites for overall victory.
And there's a little message here for Pedro Delgado, delivered by hand, wasn't received too well either. The riders don't always like this cold water being poured down the neck. Now Delgado goes, he's waited till Palo has flown just too many times, and look at that, Pedro Delgado has sprouted wings.
Richard Baron deserves to be the winner, there's no question about that. What happened there? What has happened there? It seemed quite a normal corner. He must have hit somebody in the audience. Mayer has gone.
It's complete and utter chaos at the back end of the bike race. And he's going again, he's accelerating again, Phil. This is amazing. This man has been on the ground. He almost lost his manhood on that crossbars a few moments ago, and he's decided he wants to go.
Look at the perspiration just running off his face. He's heading now to his 16th stage win of his Tours de France.
When the race hit the climb of Les Ardiden this time round, 2 riders were out front. The Olympic road race champion Samuel Sanchez and the young Belgian Jelle van Endert. A minute 18 behind them, Thomas Vogler was still in the group containing all the main contenders.
This is Alberto Contador, the greatest climber in the world, but he doesn't look it right now. He's had to do an acceleration because whatever we said about Andy Schleck, he's just attacked, and Contador saw it and has gone. So did Cadel Evans. They've all lifted their game. The 4 favourites are going.
Well, that was just a little dummy move there as Andy Schleck came to the front, and immediately the response came from Alberto Contador, and they're all slowly... Oh, there's a move by Frank Schleck now. It was going to be the 1-2.
That is the 1-2. It was the dummy by Andy. Now they've got to go. Basso's onto him straight away as Frank Schleck has made the move. Ivan Basso has come across, gritting his teeth, but Contador has gone, and Andy Schleck is really gritting his teeth. Also, the Petit Prince, Cugnaux in pink, has joined up as well. Evans is there too. They've got to control Schleck now.
Well, this is all the damage at the back, but Frank Schleck, I think this year could very well be the secret weapon for Leopard Trek, because he's gone again and he's forcing Alberto Contador onto the defensive. Cadel Evans just sitting there watching the party. Little nod of the head there for Andy Schleck, saying, no, I can't go over the top of this one.
4 kilometres to go. We're watching the real race here now. The 2 boys up front have lost about 10 seconds of the lead with that attack and that counter-attack, as they now have unshipped Levi Leipheimer a little bit there. He's going to have to hope they slow down a bit. Now here's the attack we expected earlier from Ivan Basso. He's waited for the Schlecks to use energy. They've had to come back at him. Contador, Basso, Cadel Evans and Frank Schleck.
And still in contact, 1-8-1 in the yellow jersey, Thomas Vogler. That was a series of attacks there. Nobody could actually get a little bit of time between themselves and everyone else. Schleck looking very nervous, looking left, looking right, waiting for another move to come from his brother, and here it is again.
This is the next attack by the champion of Luxembourg, and Contador has kicked again, so too has Cadel Evans. They're going after Frank Schleck because long term, They always think Andy is the man to beat to Paris, but Frank is throwing in the ricochets now, and they're not giving him any leeway at all.
Matching every move and every person in the red and black jersey, BMC Racing. Cadel Evans looking very calm and collected. He doesn't need to go on the attack today, Phil, because he's the highest place of all of the pre-race favourites.
Absolutely, but no yellow jersey unless he gets 2 minutes and 6 seconds ahead of the yellow jersey, and the yellow jersey is right with them. Tommy Voigtler enjoying his day. Now they're all looking at each other and say, well, have you got any more to throw at me? Because we're all still here.
Well, Ivan Basso realises this is the moment to go forward. And let's not forget, there are still 2 riders off the front of this race, Jelle Venendaert and, of course, Samy Sanchez, the Olympic champion. 1:08, sliding backwards now. This is Jean-Christophe Perrault of France.
Well, as Perrault takes his final gasps there and then decides, I can't handle these lifting of the speeds, he slipped away from a group of what was 19 riders here.
Here's another move by Frank Schleck again.
Well, that's another acceleration, and this time they're a little bit slow in the reaction because they had Roland on the front, who is only concerned to look after his yellow jersey, and that is the gap. Now they're going to have to react from the main field.
Well, this was the move. We were expecting this to be the big 1-2, and this is going to be the recipe, Phil, throughout the whole of the Pyrenees and the whole of the Alps as well. The 2 Schleck brothers, I think, are almost on identical form in the Tour de France this year, if not, Andy, a little bit behind Frank.
2 kilometres to go for Venendaert and for Samuel Sanchez.
Well, Samuel Sanchez right now, Phil, is probably thinking to himself, well, I don't know how I'm going to get around this guy in the sprint finish towards the end, because Venendaert has not won many races throughout his career, but he's a man who's always been fairly close to the front end of the race. I think the best position he had this year was he, in fact, finished 6th in the Flèche Wallonne race, and that was to help his own teammate, Philippe Gilbert, get the win.
And look at this, Cadel Evans feeling his 2nd place overall, as it would be if it had stayed status quo tonight, is now going to chase Frank Schleck if he can. He's doing his turn at lifting the pace. These are riders now behind the race here, being tailed off all of the time, and sadly that looks like Tommy Danielson has just lost contact.
Well, the gap now as Ivan Basso accelerates over the top of Cadel Evans. They're now starting to open the gap on the yellow jersey. Alberto Contador moves, and again shadowed by Andy Schleck.
And shadowed by Tommy Voigtler as he gets across to join the other 2. It's true what they say about the yellow jersey. It makes you ride like 2 men, and Voigtler has gone across to the back wheel of Basso.
Well, he almost got to the back wheel, but I think he was pushing himself to a bridge just a little bit too far. Then now, as we can see, Andy Schleck trying to bridge the gap to Basso and Cadel Evans. Andy Schleck knows he can't let Cadel Evans get too far up the road.
Well, Contador and Schleck has danced away to the leaders there, but how much more have these riders got? They've given everything to try and break each other up. Cadel Evans now is pushing on. It looks as though Tommy Voigtler, knowing he's going to stay yellow tonight, hasn't got a lot more left. Pierre Roland has stayed with him. He'll lose seconds, but he won't lose that yellow jersey tonight. Go on, kick again.
Well, he's given absolutely everything. A little word of instruction to his teammate Pierre Roland. What he has to ride now, Phil, is sensibly. He can give away 2.5 minutes on Cadel Evans. Well, he can give away 2:25 and still remain in the lead at the end of the day.
But it's steep all of the way. 1 kilometre to go now for the 2 riders at the front, Samuel Sanchez and Jelle Venendaert, who wiped out Geraint Thomas and Jeremy Roy at the start of this climb. They raced for 1st and 2nd. Frank Schleck, the Luxembourg champion, is free to fly, but can he close down 47 seconds in a kilometre? It's all uphill. I suppose it's possible, and that is 47 seconds. You can see them.
Well, in fact, he's coming even closer now, Phil. He's gone through that point at 25 seconds behind Samy Sanchez and Venendaert. As you can see, Cadel Evans knows what he has to do. He's also pulling himself inside out.
Well, Voigtler has his faithful teammate there nursing him up to the finishing line. Cadel Evans here is racing to keep a high overall, but this has been a good day for the Australian. Basso has now put his colours on the mast. He's a candidate for victory. So too Damiano Cugnaux in the pink. The champion defending us at the back here. He must wonder how the world of cycling has changed in the last 12 months.
Well, Cadel Evans riding really like a man possessed here, taking the responsibility of the chase behind Samy Sanchez and, of course, behind Frank Schleck. But still, these 2 men, Phil, are surviving. They're looking around every corner. He says, have a look down there. We better keep working together because those guys are coming back very quickly, and especially this man, Frank Schleck.
Sanchez knows he has a problem with that Belgian cyclist. He doesn't know how to get rid of him, and he's gambling Venendaert. He's going to jump in before they get to the finishing line, I think. and they've got to play it carefully because Frank Schleck is coming quickly. Now, as our camera has opened a gap on the Petit Prince there, and look at this, they better go soon, because Frank Schleck now is going to take this race as he did in the Grand Bournon, as he did on Alpe d'Huez. He's never won in the Pyrenees, but that, I think, is about to change. But there goes the Belgian. He saw it coming, and I'm not sure Sanchez realised that attack came at 500 metres.
Well, Sanchez was right onto his wheel there, and he's gone onto his wheel around the corner. That was a moment of panic by the Belgian. Sammy Sanchez is in the ideal position now. As you can see, Venender is tuning the lead out.
Well, he's got to keep on going because Frank Schleck is not going to relax the chase now. Sanchez is gambling here. This will be his biggest win since his gold medal in Beijing. I don't think there's a second kick coming from Frank Schleck here, but I think there's a second kick going to come from the Belgian rider, the revelation today in the mountains, but the champion of the Olympic Games in Beijing. He's got it in the end, the final acceleration from Sammy Sanchez, and he's disappeared into the mist of Les Ardiden, and he's going to win this by far and away his greatest one-day victory, apart, of course, from his gold medal win in Beijing. Terrific ride for Samuel Sanchez. He'll climb up the overall a little bit tonight, but that wasn't his aim today. He wanted to win the first of the big mountain stages of this year's Tour de France, and he has.
Well, that was a greatly well-timed sprint for him as he comes up, just keeping himself in second place. Yellow Venender, he made the mistake as the acceleration now, and it looked like there's a little bit of a gap here. Where is Alberto Contador?
Seconds being lost. Contador's been unhitched, and Cadel Evans is in this as he goes through on the inside. There's fourth place at stake here. Cadel Evans on the wheel of Basso. Contador has been dropped as he comes up the climb. The champion is losing more seconds on his own playground now, and a lot of seconds as Basso gets fourth, Andy Schleck gets fifth, Cadel Evans is sixth, Cugnaux is seventh, and Contador, the clock is counting. It's not a lot, but it's time lost in the Tour de France for Contador.
And it's time for Cadel Evans to open up the gap. Thomas Voeckler will keep his yellow jersey this afternoon. Look at his face, he's looking at the clock, Phil, and he knows, well done, thanks very much, mate, still in yellow.
Voeckler's first job at the finish was to thank Pierre Rolland, who'd been at his side all day. Shades of 2004 when he'd held on to the jersey against all odds. In 2004, though, he'd been yo-yoing off the back of the lead group. This time, he looked a part of it. Nonetheless, the big names were now lined up behind Voeckler in the overall standings. Frank Schleck had taken over second place, Cadel Evans was third, Andy Schleck fourth, Ivan Basso fifth, ahead of his fellow Italian Damiano Cugnaux, then a pair of Spaniards, the defending champion Alberto Contador, and the stage winner and last year's fourth-placed rider Samuel Sanchez. The Schlecks had looked the strongest of the group, and Frank, supposedly here to help his younger brother, had looked stronger than Andy.
I like to win the Tour, but if my brother wins the Tour, I'm as happy as if I would win. So we got to play smart. We are both pretty good right now, so we got to play smart. The question is not if we can win the Tour, the question is how can we win it.
Day 2 in the Pyrenees finally brought some decent weather to the Tour, and although it featured one big climb in the Col d'Aubisque, there was a long, flat run into the finish. Perfect breakaway territory, and Jean Gois thought he'd launched the perfect break. He was out front on his own for almost the entire day.
10 kilometres to go now. He's still clear, but it's close. The two pursuers are 18 seconds back of him, and Jeremy Roy is really fighting to hold them off now, and he's suffering. You can see that. There is the same 10-kilometre banner now for the two-man chase.
Well, at a moment like this, Phil, he's hardly got any energy left in those legs of his, but he's got to push that pain barrier that little bit further on. He's got to give his all right now, because he knows if he gets caught after this long, hard effort that he's put in, he's racing for second or third position, because they all know how good Thor Hushovd is. 18 seconds is not very much. That's about 300 metres. There they can now see the cars. The red car just in front of Thor Hushovd is riding right behind Jeremy Roy.
8:36, forget the break, the peloton behind. They're almost 10 kilometres or 6 miles behind this rider today. We'll have to wait for those to come in for quite a while, because this man, who is the new leader in the King of the Mountains, is still trying to hang on and give France its first victory of this year's Tour de France. He's heading towards 9 kilometres to go, and the other two are now 16 seconds back of him.
He's really got to bury himself in a situation like this. You've got to hurt all the way to the finish 10 kilometres normally will take a rider between 13 and 14 minutes, and he'll be calculating that in his mind, saying, this pain has got to be with me for that much longer. I've got to hold off. I've got to prevent Thor Hushovd coming back, otherwise I've lost my day. But he's not lost his day completely, Phil, because he will have a chance of pulling on the polka dot jersey at the end of the day.
This is the back of the peloton, which is a long, thin line of riders, but although they're going quick because they're going downhill, they're not closing any gaps anymore. They're going to ride to the finish as one. There's a little bit of an interest to try and bring back Philippe Gilbert from the Movistar team, because he will damage the position of Rojas if he stays out front. It's a tight finish at the top at the moment for the green jersey. Cavendish will keep that green jersey. This is the race of the day now. Jeremy Roy, written himself into the annals of the history of the Tour de France with some terrific riding for a week. And now look at this, Hushovd is notching it up a ramp here, and Moncoutier is just about hanging on to his back wheel.
Well, Thor has got the bit between the teeth now. He realises he's got to peg it back. The kilometres are starting to tick away, and they still haven't pegged back that last 15 seconds or so as he goes around all of these corners. He knows he's aiming at that car, Phil. That in his mind is psychologically what he wants to get himself to, because he knows just in front of that car is the man he's chasing.
Well, I'll tell you what, we started to go up this little ramp, and he's actually increased his lead again. It went out to 20. Now that reaction from Hushovd's brought it back to 15. They can see him, he can see them. He's looking through his legs and under his arm. He knows they're coming, but he is not going to concede. Jeremy Roy has got too big a heart to give up. Roy has just come over that little rise there, and if anything, these little rises seem to be in his favour, because it hurts the other two. They're so flat out to try and bring him back. Now we start to have a descent here. That might throw it back to the favour of Hushovd. He's getting no help whatsoever from Moncoutier, and I think if they catch Jeremy Roy, Moncoutier will try to go alone to the finish. 6.2 kilometres to go. Very soon he'll see 5, which will only be 3 miles to the finish. Oh boy, he's suffering all sorts of pain, this man now, but he knows it's worth it today.
Well, for him, it's a chance of victory and a chance of glory. He's had a victory so far this year. It was the first race of the year, the Grand Prix de l'Ouverture La Marseillaise. He won a race last year in Brittany, the Trophée Bro-Léon, and the year before that he won a stage of Paris-Nice, and that was in Vallon-Pont d'Arc.
I just saw, look, he's shaking his head here. I think he's generally can't help. He can't go through. He just can't give any help to Thor Hushovd. And Thor would not take kindly if he attacked if they did catch it with Jeremy Roy. The gap has gone out. No, it hasn't. It's come back. It's 14 seconds, despite the fact that Hushovd has taken a drink.
I actually feel, Phil, that in fact David Moncoutier does not want to work because he doesn't want to spoil the French party. Having a Frenchman work with Thor Hushovd, he knows that if they catch Jeremy Roy, it's going to be a victory for the man wearing 51, the world champion, and that's why now all of a sudden all of the work belongs to the responsibility of Thor Hushovd. But he's a strong, powerful character. Inside, he'll internalise all of this. He'll start and concentrate. But, you know, for the last 5 kilometres, it's varied between 15 seconds and 20 seconds. It's not gone any less than that.
Meanwhile, at 10 kilometres to go, Philippe Gilbert and Bauke Mollema are still chasing here. And they're still ahead of the field. Philippe, the champion of Belgium, looking for green jersey points, even though there won't be that many, about 10. 5 kilometres to go, and he still looks as though he's flying across the roads of France today, bound for Lourdes. Well, dare I say, this boy is now going to have to pray for a miracle, because these two are so close to him. And in the last 3 miles of the race now, Hushovd, is he thinking, I'm not going to catch him, or is he thinking, I'll get him 2 kilometres out?
Well, Thor is not the kind of guy, Phil, who will give up in a situation like this. He's had glory in the Tour de France before. As you mentioned, he's won on 8 separate occasions. He's ridden the event 11 times, and he knows that an opportunity to win a stage does not present itself very often. David Moncoutier knows the same thing. He's a 2-time winner of stages at the Tour de France, but he doesn't want to spoil the party for France. The French have not had a stage over the first 12 stages of the Tour de France this year. And can you imagine what the French press would do to David Moncoutier if he helped Thor Hushovd to catch Jeremy Roy?
As they've done in the past, they've always said, oh, the French always chase the French. Well, today it looks as though Moncoutier on a rival team is not chasing the French. We've just gone under. 4 kilometres to go now. That's about 5 minutes of pain for Jeremy Roy. And can Hushovd close that gap? He is now under 4 kilometres to go. The gap is locked at 15 seconds.
Well, it is quite amazing. You know, you can see the man that he's chasing. They're locked in, but they've been in the saddle for a long time. They escaped early on after the first climb of the day, the third category climb of the Col de Cucuron. And from that point onwards, they started to form that 10-man breakaway. They're all now starting to feel the fatigue of the last 10 or 15 minutes of today's stage.
And still out in front of the peloton is Gusev, also Boysenhagen, Pinot back. They're all still ahead of the bunch. We just got no cameras to show them to you. And the peloton is probably about a minute behind Philippe Gilbert, who's trying to race for a handful of green points for that competition. He could finish up in second place tonight. But this is the race for the win today, and this man has been a hero since he went away on his own on the climb of the Col d'Aubisque. And the clock is still holding 13 seconds. There's the gap. And in fact, Moncoutier has gone to the front, but there's no power there.
There isn't very much power at all, and it may well be these long little false flats could go to the advantage of Jérémy Roy, who's proved that he's a very good climber. Thor Hushovd knows that the time is kicking by. The next barrier they're going to see is going to be 3 kilometres to go to the finish. That corresponds to about 4.5 or maybe maximum 5 minutes of effort.
3 kilometres to go now. He's about 4 and a bit minutes away from the finishing line. 4 and a bit minutes. If you could ride the bike for him, I reckon they would. The way the crowd is just cheering here, and this is the chase. And I think at the end of the day, there will be desperate moments from Hushovd. He'll have to go, and he's gone.
Well, Hushovd has got the power in those legs. He's just going to look at the rider in front, that white jersey on the shoulders of Jérémy Roy. It's still 13 seconds. It looks as if Jérémy Roy is starting to crack because Hushovd is going across that gap.
This is the cat. He can't rely on Moncoutier, so he's had to shake him off his wheel. Moncoutier, though, is like a limpet. He's coming back to him. What a pursuit. 3 riders dotted on the horizon here, racing for first place in the Tour de France. And Thor Hushovd, this incredible Norwegian, is now trying to reach this Frenchman and spoil the party.
Well, the camera looks back and it sees the white jersey with the rainbow bands around the middle. The current champion of the world. He won that title in Geelong, Australia in October of last year, and he's just about got himself into the slipstream. But Jérémy Roy will not give up until he knows that Thor Hushovd is right there locked into his wheel. He's made it across, Thor Hushovd.
He catches at 2.3 kilometres from the finish. 2 riders together. I think you'll find Moncoutier might get back. He's hit him straight away because he knows he's tired, and he's going to ride to a solitary win here. Thor Hushovd, the world champion. This will be the great moment. Under 2 kilometres to go for the world champion. Now he's free to fly in the most coveted jersey in the world, that of a world champion.
What a moment of pride for Norway. As you can see, the scramble. Moncoutier now is coming up to the wheel of Jérémy Roy, but nothing is holding back Thor Hushovd at all this afternoon. He is a great individual time trialist. We said that in the early part of his career. He's the world champion at the under-23 level of the time trial. But here, he has changed his yellow tunic that he had over the first week of the Tour de France, Phil, and he's put back his World Championships jersey onto his shoulders. What a moment of joy that's going to be. He's looking around the corner to see, tell me where the kilometre to go banner is, please.
The race was 152 kilometres today, 2 kilometres too far for Jérémy Roy, who will be on the podium tonight as the new leader in the King of the Mountains. But the stage win is going the way of the Norwegian world champion. And you would have got impossible odds on this man at the start of this stage because of the mountain in the middle. There is the 1 kilometre to go. This is rather a narrow approach to the town. They didn't expect a big bunch sprint, and indeed they haven't got one. Lourdes hasn't seen the Tour de France since the end of the 40s, and now they're seeing the world champion bring it on home.
Well, Gino Bartoli, the famous Gino Bartoli from Italy, was the last man to win on the streets of Lourdes this afternoon, and still, Phil, there are Norwegian flags all over the place.
Look at the crowd here, and this will inspire Hushovd all the way to the line for his 9th historical stage win. He rode his first Tour de France, and he lasted 12 days back in 2001. And what the fairy tale for the American Garmin Cervelo team continues here. He can't believe he's winning this stage with all those mounted behind him. This wasn't to be his day. It is now.
Well, he's going to be extremely satisfied with this one, Phil. He's won 8 times before at the Tour de France, but when you're a sprinter and you've dragged your body over the biggest mountains that the Pyrenees can slap in your face, it's going to be a massive moment of pride, and a huge smile will come across his face.
He just doesn't believe it. This will, I reckon, he'll rate as the finest win of his career. Win number 8 in the Tour de France. and he comes home both arms in the world champion, and he wants you to see he's the world champion, has to win a stage of the Tour de France in that jersey. There are only 2 Norwegians in the race, that's Boysenhagen and Thor, and they've both won stages now.
And they're both going to finish in the top 10 on today's stage as David Moncoutier comes across the line. He marked this race in his book today to try and get himself the victory. He's going to have to settle for second place, but here is the hero of the day, Jeremy Roy. He failed for 2.5 kilometers. He cannot believe it. I know it hurts in the heart.
It was a brilliant race across the mountains, and he didn't win it, but he went down fighting, and he has got a jersey, the first ever jersey he'll have pulled on in the Tour de France.
It was real panache. When you eventually retire and you look back on your Tour de France stage wins, that's got to be the best one, hasn't it, in some ways?
This is the best one, absolutely. I mean, winning alone with a rainbow jersey, going over Col de Bisque, a big rider, like a heavy rider like me, it's the most incredible.
Stage 14 was the toughest of the Tour to date, and arguably the toughest full stop. 5 giant Pyrenean climbs to get over and a 6th to finish on, the Plateau de Beille. Thomas Voeckler took a 1-minute 49-second lead into it, but with so many of the favourites lined up behind, nobody expected him still to be there at the end. Mind you, no one had expected him to hold on in 2004 when the race finished on the same climb, and he denied Lance Armstrong the race lead, so he had history on his side if nothing else. The Schlecks put their team on the front to set a pace high enough to thin out the field, and by the time the race reached the foot of the final climb, there was only a small group left. A small group that nonetheless still contained the yellow jersey. The Schlecks launched a series of attacks that troubled Alberto Contador more than Thomas Voeckler, but neither of them very much, while Jelle van Endert took advantage of the infighting to ride off the front on his own.
In the distance is the banner 5 kilometres from the summit, and it's climb all the way to the finish today, and Jelle van Endert has taken advantage of the in-battle of the favourites to leave them behind and go for the stage win. He's not a danger for yellow just yet. He's 12 minutes and 54 seconds behind the yellow jersey. Andy Schleck has come up to 3rd, Evans is 4th, Contador is 5th, Frank Schleck is 6th, Sanchez has got himself back up as well. Pierre Roland has just hooked up to the back. Cugnaux looks as though he might be gone. Just see him in the distance.
Well, he's hovering at the back of this group, but every time they slow down, it gives chances for a rider to come back into the event. 4.6 kilometres to go to the summit. Thomas Voeckler is now starting to look at retaining his overall lead, and if he does today, he can keep it for at least 2 more days before the next assault on the high passes of the Alpine peaks. Well, Damiano Cugnaux going off the back of this group, a 6th overall at the start of the day.
Here he is now, and this will be the greatest moment of his career as a professional cyclist if he's to win one of the most coveted stages of this year's Tour de France. And he's got the advantage because he's lost the time so far. They're not directly attacking him.
Sammy Sanchez is going for it now.
Well, this is what happened at Les Ardiden, but he beat Frank Schleck there. Frank Schleck's not going to give him his head this time. Schleck goes on his back wheel, but he still persists.
Well, this is a slightly flatter part of the course, and Thomas Voeckler is digging deep now to make sure that he can ride his way across that gap. I don't know how many times he can recover like this and scramble onto the wheel of these attacks by the big heads of state.
Tommy Voeckler has gone back into 3rd wheel there. Cadel Evans has come up, Contador has come up. We go under 4 kilometres to go. They've weakened a little bit Pierre Roland, the teammate of Voeckler, who's been dropped in that flurry of attacks. Sanchez has gone a second time, and he's caught Schleck out of position.
Well, Schleck said to Thomas Voeckler, why don't you go and chase him down? You chase me down, and there's going to be a little bit of a frayed expression now coming into this group. Sammy Sanchez could be making a good move here. He could be looking at another stage victory. He's got a bridge, though, 30 seconds to Jelle van Endert.
Well, there's no reason for Voeckler to chase him yet. He's 4 minutes 11 seconds behind Tommy Voeckler. So Voeckler will keep concentrating on the men closest to him and gamble on the gaps that Sanchez is allowed to get. Sanchez is an absolute long-term danger. They can't let him go too far. Frank Schleck went out of position. Sanchez attacked. Cadel Evans is 3rd now. This group is getting smaller, and riders are actually getting off the front.
This is the leader now, Jelle van Endert of Team Omega Pharma Lotto. He's but ploughing that lonely furrow. He doesn't need to look over his shoulders. He's just got to carry on concentrating at 3.1 kilometres to go. He may well not even know that coming across the gap, probably halfway across the gap, is the Olympic champion from Beijing, Sammy Sanchez, number 21.
Basso has come back to the front again. He's giving as good as he gets here. 3 kilometres to go now for Samuel Sanchez. He's last time he was with Van den Aert, as you say, and he had to drop him to win the sprint. Now he's got to catch him and win the sprint.
Well, Ivan Basso just getting out of the saddle once more, picking that pace up to make sure he keeps the pain in everybody's legs here this afternoon. I would think a little frustrated, number 11 there, Andy Schleck. He's not been thrown, I don't know how many attacks at everyone here. Watch out for number 18, he's getting out of the saddle, that's Frank Schleck. He's maybe waiting to see if he can repeat the same attack that he put in the other day when we went up to the summit of Luz Ardiden.
And Rigoberto Urán is the rider here for Team Sky as well. He's had a very good day in the mountains again. Andy Schleck, he made those 3 attacks. You know, they always say you can make 3 and that's where it stops if you don't succeed. And there's been no more coming yet. The others are getting more frisky as well, but they haven't really put in an attack. Cadel Evans hasn't, Alberto Contador hasn't. They've just followed the wheels up the mountain.
They've done everything they can do to negate the Schlecks, but now Ivan Basso may well get some freedom from this, because the Schlecks will say to the other guys in this breakaway, OK, you chase him down because you've been chasing us down as well.
And it looks as though we are able to chase. This is Perrault of Team AG2R. And we didn't expect him to be here at this stage of the race either. But he is chasing Basso. Basso is sitting in 5th place overall, 3:16 down. Perrault is a bit further back at over 8 minutes. But those two, as the infight starts, the market, and look at this, Tommy Voigtler has left the stars of the Tour de France, well, the projected stars of the Tour de France, and is going up to these other two with a face of pain. He is going up to these leaders. He is not going to lose his lead tonight. This rider is again riding like 2 men, and Cadel Evans is moving up on the crowd line. Evans has sensed there could be a problem here. This is going to be a push by Cadel Evans now.
Well, Cadel Evans now, it's his responsibility to keep the pace going. Look at the face of Andy Schleck. It's not a smile on his face anymore. That's a serious grimace as he comes up alongside Evans. Voigtler has done, I would say, the ride of his life, comparable to the ride in 2004 when he kept the lead in the Tour de France on this very climb for 22 seconds. But he was a younger man then, Phil, an inexperienced rider. Today, he's riding with the strength of a long professional career, but also with the brain of a seasoned professional.
A very different Tour de France, but there are 6 riders here who believe now they can win this race. Tommy Voigtler, he will begin to believe he can win this race. He'll need more time, of course. He's not the best time trialist, but Cadel Evans, if he keeps this group like this, he's going to fancy his chances as we go down into the Alps. Now we've all gone back into the status quo, pressure gone off again. The leader is looking for 1 kilometre to go. The lone furrow now of a Belgian cyclist. I never thought I'd say that in this year's Tour de France, winning on the Plateau de Beille.
Well, the race situation, Van den Aert is leading Sammy Sanchez by 23 seconds, and the yellow jersey Alberto Contador group is at 58 seconds from the lone leader. But this constant acceleration and deceleration does nothing to their ability to eat into the advantage of the 2 men in front of them.
We're into the crowd barriers now, under 1 kilometre to go for the Belgian rider, Jelle Van den Aert, who is on the Amiga Pharma Lotto team, who lost their team leader and potential podium finisher in Jurgen van den Broek as he fell and punctured a lung way back last week. And he went home, and this man has started to fly the flag for that team.
Well, second on the road, inside the final kilometre as well, 21, Sammy Sanchez. He could be looking at a lead in the King of the Mountains competition at the end of this afternoon. But this group here, Phil, the only riders to have really thrown serious punches at the other competitors were the 2 Schleck brothers, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't open up the gap.
And they've got 2 men on that squad too, and they could not get rid of the limpet-like riders alongside them. Cadel tried one move, it almost looked as though it might have worked here. They come under 1 kilometre to go. They're racing for 3rd place on the day and no time difference, which is what they wanted most of all, because they're all likely to cross the line in the same time. Alberto Contador, he still hasn't convinced me he's on great form, but he's had a much better climb here than he had on Luz Ardiden.
Well, they could do nothing at all to get rid of Alberto Contador, but the man that was really astounded everyone, I think, at the end of today when we start to look back at the results, is the man in yellow. He was expected to lose the race at Luz Ardiden. He kept hold of it there. He was expected to lose the race today, and he's still going to keep it because Thomas Voigtler will remain at 1 minute and 49 seconds behind, ahead of Frank Schleck this afternoon.
Well, prepare yourself now for the victory here of Venendert, and this will be the greatest moment of his life as he comes up towards the finish. Another push on there now by Basso, who has had a great climb today. The man who is about to win this stage has never won a professional cycling event since he turned professional. He's only a youngster and has a long future ahead. First Tour de France, second mountaintop finish, first victory, and he is now going to move up the classification as well. He can't believe it. That is a real victory today for Jelle van den Aert. He also gets 40 points in the King of the Mountains. We'll have to wait and see if he pulls on the leader's jersey. He probably won't, because Sanchez will get also double points for second.
Well, this is the second group of Pierre Rolland doing an incredible job for Thomas Voeckler here this afternoon. Every time he's been dropped, he's come to the front and paced the yellow jersey. Sammy Sanchez, again, snatched a few seconds away from all of the other riders in this race, and he will start to climb that little bit closer up to a top 5 finish. He's lost 22 seconds on the leader, but Andy Schleck now powering away again.
Well, are they going to hope him, or is he going to open a couple of seconds on the line with a sprint finish? He's determined to get something out of the day's racing, and he's distanced everybody. He will get a different time to them, albeit by 2 or 3 seconds. That's a very determined finish of the stage as he looks back, and Cadel Evans races up to take 4th place behind him. He probably conceded 2 seconds.
Well, it was just a show of defiance to slap the other guys in the face to say, look, I'm still strong, and there's a long way to go in the Tour de France this week, and I'll be back. But for Thomas Voeckler, yes, that's a sign of victory. The victory for him is keeping the yellow jersey for another day.
So, implausibly, Thomas Voeckler's lead heading out of the Pyrenees was exactly the lead he'd held coming in, 1 minute 49 seconds. Frank Schleck had simply taken over from Luis Leon Sanchez in second place. The heartwarming story of the plucky home rider defying the odds that was supposed to entertain us for a few days before things got serious was threatening to turn into the story of the race.
I would suggest it's changed the game completely, what you did today. It's no longer a question of hanging on. You're a real contender now.
I don't know how to answer to all those questions because
Do you not feel that way?
It's hard to believe for me to be in yellow after the Pyrenees with quite the same gap that I had before the Pyrenees. And what I expect, I wouldn't understand if it continues like this during the last week, because it's unbelievable for me. And I'll keep on. We'll take the stage one by one as we made since the beginning, and we'll see what happens. It's like a dream.
After 3 days in the high mountains, the race left the Pyrenees not with a rolling transitional stage, but a hard, fast return to the flat. There was almost nothing between Limoux and Montpellier except vicious cross tailwinds and some glorious scenery. The day's intermediate sprint was late, placed with just 46 kilometres left to race, and Mark Cavendish took it comfortably behind the day's breakaway to pad his lead over José Joaquín Rojas and Philippe Gilbert. But the big points were at the finish, and with the field altogether on the run into Montpellier, the tactic of the day seemed to be disrupt the HTC train.
Now this is how to beat Mark Cavendish as they go into the last 2 kilometres, is to throw individual attacks at the sprinters' team and break up the rhythm, and that is working so far. Cavendish, though, watch the green jersey. He's holding position. He is about 7 men down there. He still has control.
Well, they've got now the organisation of Lampre coming to the front end of this pack, and not far back is Gregor Bole. He'll be looking after Alessandro Pataki. Pataki's the rider in the pink and blue jersey there with the lime green red bike.
And the rush through in the centre in the black is Geraint Thomas trying to pull through Edward Boysenhagen up towards the line. Bit of bumping and barging. There is Geraint in the white sunglasses off to the left here. He's got held too from Rigoberto Urán, the new man in the white jersey.
Well, Cavendish is boxed in at the moment, but right up there as well in about 5th position is Ben Swift. It looks as if Bosenhagen's going to make the sprint for Ben Swift this afternoon. Once again, it's Geraint Thomas on the front, but now we've got the organisation coming from HTC, but Omega Pharma Lotto moving on the left-hand side, and that's for Greipel.
Now the final lead-out is trying to be started here, but very shortly it's got to be Renshaw who takes up the running. Greipel looks as though though he's sat up out of this. Now Renshaw goes, and still in his slipstream is the Manx missile. Mark Cavendish is waiting to be launched, and again out of the middle of the field and the debris, he is going to launch his attack. And I'll tell you now, as I look at this, when he goes, there is nobody going to touch him, and he goes as he makes it. That's Daniel Oss who's coming after him in second place, but Renshaw is too fast for Oz. But look at the run of Tyler Farrar. Farrar coming on the right, and Mark Cavendish gets it on the line. He makes it look easy, but boy, again, only just ahead of the field.
Phil,
brilliant enough.
He didn't make it look easy, Phil. The team made it look easy for him, because he cannot win a race without that team around him, setting him up to absolute perfection. That's Daniel Oss over there in the lime green Liquigas Cannondale, but win number 19 for this man. He's unbelievable.
Mark, on stages like that, when you get the train working and all 9 men are there ever moments where you doubt yourselves, or is it in your own mind such a banker? You seem so sure of how it's going to work out.
It's not a fact of doubting yourself, it's a fact of not letting them down. It's a fear more than anything, you know. They're incredible, aren't they? It's just like that. I told you after the stage where they rode and Greipel beat me, I can't sleep at night. I just go over and over and over. It's serious. You think I'm joking? It kills me, like, you know. It's not the fact I lost, because if I did it on my own, then lost, fair enough. And the guys put everything into it, and I can't finish it. It really does hurt me, you know. And it's just a case of that. They're just so well disciplined, you know. And it's not a discipline through practice. We don't practice it. They just want to do it. They're just there, and they all have trust in the guy in front of them, and I just have the trust in Mark in front of me.
It was pretty much a day off for the yellow jersey before the official day off for everyone. And talking of everyone, Ned asked Thomas Voerkler the questions we all wanted to hear the answers to.
Did you read the newspapers this morning?
No.
Do you know what was in them?
No, not really.
Can you guess?
No. Tell me.
Well, it was full of talk about whether or not you can win the Tour de France. And was it something that you thought about last night when you went to bed?
I have a scoop for you. I'm not able to win the Tour, but...
Why do you say that?
Because that's been now, it's my 9th Tour de France. Since 2003 I made the Tour de France, and obviously I'm not able, I will give all I can, as I said, since I took the jersey, but when I saw the guys who are just behind me at the overall classification, when I saw the different stages, I don't know how I could do that.
Well, you did it in the Pyrenees. The Alps are just mountains.
Yeah, maybe, but higher mountains.
They're higher for everyone though, Thomas, and no one has so far been able to shake Voerkler off. Let's check the standings then after 15 stages. Thomas Voerkler still leads the race by 1:49 from Frank Schleck. Cadel Evans is third at 2:06, 9 seconds ahead of Andy Schleck, and they're the only men within 3 minutes of the leader. Ivan Basso is at 3:16, Samuel Sanchez at 3:44, Alberto Contador at 4 minutes exactly, and Damiano Cunego a second behind him. Nicolas Roche and Philippe Gilbert have both been in the top 10 this week, but they're both out of it for the moment, 18th and 28th. All the British riders have been active over the past 6 stages, none more so than Geraint Thomas, who's already planning more for the final week.
I'm going to try, yeah. Why not? I think, I felt good from the start, really, and like you say, it seems to be recovering really well, and make the most of tomorrow, rest day, and then 2 days where I think a breakaway is probably likely. So we'll get stuck into the racing again, and then obviously the 2 days where we go to Galibier, we'll try and keep Rigo in the best possible position.
Rigo being Rigoberto Urán, leading the best young rider competition at the moment, climbing well enough to extend his lead in the Alps. Jelle van Endert has just 2 points on Samuel Sanchez in the King of the Mountains competition, and with 40 points apiece at the summits of the Galibier and Alpe d'Huez, the race for the polka dot jersey is wide open. The race for the green jersey is not. 37 points is Mark Cavendish's lead over Jose Joaquin Rojas, and the more dangerous Philippe Gilbert is now 71 points behind him. Stage 16 took the race to the foot of the Alps with a finishing gap via one alpine foothill that had already secured its place in Tour history alongside cols 10 times as big. It wasn't the climb of the Col de Mons that was intimidating, but the fast, tricky descent just 11 kilometres from the finish line. The same one that had ended Joseba Bolocchi's tour in 2003 and sent Lance Armstrong off-roading through a farmer's field. A leading group of 8 breakaway riders were hoping to profit from the col, knowing that whoever led over the top would have a great chance of holding on to win. With under 15 kilometres left and a lead of nearly 6 minutes, that group began to split up on the climb. Behind them, the favourites were all together.
Ryder Heyerdahl is prizing that gap open now, Phil. It's up to 26 seconds. He looks over his shoulder to judge what the gap is.
Well, I think I've just seen Boyson Hagen go from the peloton. We'll check that up if we can. They're going up to 15 kilometres to go. Thor Hushovs has countered the move as well. So Edouard Boyson Hagen, the Team Sky, has gone, and look at this. Contador has suddenly hit. This is a big test now. Contador has launched an attack, and they wouldn't have been expecting this.
They would not have expected a move to come so early on before we get to the big high mountains. This is how it happened. He was sitting in about 10th or 12th position. He could feel a slight kick in the gradient coming round that corner, and they're going to have to respond to this one. Look at the panic. Fabian Cancellara on his wheel. Cadel Evans, Alberto Contador, Phil. He was down in the first week. He was down in the second week. He's now back.
He's got to get time back, but I would never have thought he was going to choose today, and I bet the other riders didn't either. Now, this is a real slap in the face to the leaders of the Tour, have counted this man out, and Thomas Voigtler there fighting for his yellow jersey is countering as well, and he's coming across to the chase group. The man who's surprising me is Fabian Cancellara, who's still here on a climb and trying to drive across Frank and Andy Schleck and Cadel Evans.
Well, they've put down a little bit, as you see Thomas Voigtler scrambling across the gap. They've got rid of Ivan Basso and Sammy Sanchez, so this is a big move this afternoon. I just noticed the orange jersey of Sanchez. He sees this as being extremely dangerous.
They've got to chase. If they get away and they have to take risk down the other side, that would be terrible. And let's go back quickly to the front, because at the front, Heyerdahl is getting away too. He's breaking from Ignatieff. Sanchez has come forward. His golden helmet to Olympic champion makes him very easy to pick out. There he is on the head of the race. He's now countered the move of these others. Well, Contador has really lit the touch paper now, and everybody's throwing a hat in the ring.
Well, those are the guys that we're looking at, the top 6 guys in the overall standings. They're battling it out. Thomas Voigtler has seen this, and he is still accompanying the heads of state, the men who we talked about as the pre-tour favourites. Andy Schleck sees this as an opportunity to open up a little bit more time, but Voigtler is a man possessed. He is riding incredibly well, and I wonder if they realise now they may well have made a little mistake in not trying to get rid of Thomas Voigtler. Andy Schleck goes over the top.
Schleck is also excited now. He's trying to do it. You know, I don't think they can get rid of him. Contador is not really showing any signs of injury anymore. Schleck has tried many times to rid himself of Contador. Contador's having none of it. There's still 5 kilometres to go, as he wants now Sammy Sanchez to come and do some work.
Well, they've got a slight gap over the peloton here, but this is an amazing situation to see what Contador has all of a sudden done. We are setting ourselves up to a very big escape going into the big mountains. On the front, the blue helmet there of Garmin Cervelo, that's Tommy Danielson, a now resident of Boulder, Colorado. He's in the top 10 in the overall standings, and he sees this as being a very important move.
And he's closed the gap down because of it as well. It is an amazing situation to see the top 6 riders in the overall classification go out on the attack together, projecting themselves as the best 6 men in the Tour de France, but they cannot get ahead of one another. Now there's another attack being launched as we go back to the rider Heyerdahl, who's going serenely to the summit here and could be going to his first ever stage win in the Tour de France.
Well, it looks like Jesus Hernandez coming over the top here. They want to keep the pace nice and high. They've seen that they've got themselves a nice, juicy little gap here. And coming over the top, Andy Schleck, so that's not a very good move.
Well, as they continue on the climb, this is the peloton trying to repair the damage. Damiano Cugnaux in the pink jersey has got himself up here. The polka dot jersey of Venendert of Belgium also near the front. So as they've tried to open up the gaps, in fact, the peloton has clawed its way back up to this group. It's not as big as it was by any means, but still the big names are here. Nobody seems to be able to raise one sprint over the other.
I think one of the reasons Alberto Contador went on the attack there, Phil, it was a psychological move. we're going to have a big psychological battle over the next couple of days, and it was for Alberto Contador to say to his teammates, I've got the legs here, guys, you're going to have to work for me over the next couple of days, because I can still win this Tour de France. It's now Daniel Navarro on the front, behind him Andy Schleck. Rigoberto Urán, the rider from Colombia, and Sky in 4th position there in the white jersey, best young rider.
Well, I wonder if Cadel Evans was expecting that move, because he used his teammates to ride near the front and was ready for it when he came, as we head up towards the summit. As we look now at the leader here, the Canadian rider Hejjedal is looking for the top of the Col de Mans. Once over the top, it's 11.5 kilometers downhill to the finish. A very, very precarious descent too in this race. And the two chasers here, Edvald Boysenhagen of Team Sky and the world champion Thor Hushovd, they are inside 1 kilometer. This is Johnson.
Well, Tommy Danielson trying to get himself across the gap, but the man doing the damage from the breakaway is rider Hejjedal, the Canadian rider. It doesn't really matter whether or not he goes over the top on his own in the front, or whether he gets caught by his teammate behind, as Contador goes again with Vogler.
And Vogler has got his back wheel. This man will not give his yellow jersey to anyone. They go past Johnson as if he's not even riding. Quick reaction from Andy Schleck as they come up towards the group again now.
Well, Vogler is a man, he's unbelievable, he's a man on a mission, and although he said he has 0% chance of winning the Tour de France this year, Phil, if he continues to ride like this, with the confidence of a Tour de France winner, he could very well stay in contact in the mountains. Cadel Evans on the back foot now, on his wheel there is Frank Schleck, Damiano Cunego, Sammy Sanchez. They are starting to scramble their way back, and it's all up to Cadel Evans now on his own to nail these three back.
And nail them back he most certainly will here, as Evans has caused a crack in the chase group. He's so anxious to get onto the back of those front three. He's cracked, and Frank Schleck himself is looking over his shoulder. Just behind Evans. Evans comes back, so Contador will shut down now once they come back. Let's go up to the summit now and see the arrival of rider Hejjedal, the renaissance of the Canadians, who finished 7th overall last year in the Tour de France. He's never won a stage, but he's got his best ever chance now. 11.5 kilometers, all downhill to the finish.
Yeah, and he's a great descender as we go back here to the little battle that's happening between Alberto Contador and the other guys in the overall standings. He sees this almost, because of the technicality of the descent, almost as like a mountaintop finish. He's prizing a gap open now on Andy Schleck, and Cadel Evans has to go. Schleck has cracked.
Schleck has cracked, and Cadel Evans most certainly has not. He's catapulting himself up to the side of Alberto Contador. Well, Contador has announced his return to the Tour de France today on a second category, almost anonymous climb as we go into the Alps. He has really hit out at his rivals.
He obviously saw there was a problem. Now, bear in mind, his team manager is a guy by the name of Bjarne Riis, who last year was the team manager for Andy Schleck. And I wonder if Bjarne Riis had a feeling today that Andy Schleck was going to have a hard time. Schleck now has cracked, and he's allowed Alberto Contador to fly free.
Well, as time gains, and of course Cadel Evans, if he stays in this situation, will move up into 2nd place overall tonight. I don't think he can possibly get back the time gap of over 2 minutes to claim yellow. But this is the time now. This is a most serious attack, and Contador is looking extremely strong here. Sanchez is another big danger, who appeared in the Pyrenees and isn't going to disappear in the Alps.
And watch out, Phil, on the descent once we start that descent, because Sammy Sanchez is one of the best descenders in the sport. Yes, he can go uphill very fast, but he can also finish it off on the downhill part of the course. Andy Schleck now on the back foot, has not got any friends with him. Hejjedal looking over his shoulder. He wants to know the distance between himself and his teammate, and it's not very much more than about 50 meters.
They're going to come up on him, and this is another perfect ride. Remember, Hejjedal is on the same team as the world champion Hushovd. He will not be sad if he sees them bring him back, because with Hushovd they would win the stage anyway. But these three are making real time on the Tour de France, and they are gaining. I think we've seen Andy and Frank Schleck crack here. We should have suspected it in the Pyrenees, because they did everything and it didn't work, and Contador has waited.
Now it's 3 men at the front. They've joined rider Hejjedal for this rip-roaring descent.
Well, and that's the word. This is a really, really dangerous descent. It hasn't really started yet, believe me. These boys, they go down this long descent, then they have to turn back on themselves. A real sharp turn. It's a hairpin right bend, almost a full reversal. They've got to really watch that in these conditions. They're over the summit now, as I don't think they can bridge to the leaders. That's impossible, but they can certainly do what they're trying to do. It's make real time over the Schleck brothers and, of course, the yellow jersey of Vauclair. So at the moment, the Contador group is 18 seconds ahead of the Schleck group. There'll be no improvement in his position overall tonight if it were to stay like that, but he would have closed down a little bit on time. 5:05 back to the peloton, but the race has really lit up now. These are the men who are chasing and the men who are gaining real time. It's taken 16 days to break the spirit of the Schlecks, but Cadel Evans, Samuel Sanchez and Alberto Contador are clear for the first time in 16 days of the Tour de France. Now this is coming to the very sharp reverse hairpin here, as they make their way on what looks like they are wet roads again now as we descend back down to the finish.
This is Tony Martin in 4th place on the road. He's trying to get himself across that gap. He's caught at 34 seconds from the 3 leaders. He too must make a few risks on the descent if he hopes to try and catch the flying trio.
Well, this has been a most incredible day of racing. We are going to come into the finish at approximately 20 minutes quicker than was ever anticipated by the organisers today. Just got to be careful on these long, slippery, wet roads here. This is a really dangerous descent. I think they were lining up for a sharp bend, but our cameras have cut to the back here.
Well, don't expect Cadel Evans to be scared going downhill. He's an incredible mountain biker. He won the World Cup mountain bike before coming across to the roadside of the sport.
Looking like Andy Schleck himself hanging off the back of that peloton, not looking too happy with the way he was going down there. Cadel Evans, remember, twice a winner of the World Cup in mountain biking before he became a top pro roadman. This is a chance to gain time, and this is on the day nobody would ever have thought they would have gained time. A second category mountain, the weather's done it, the high-speed racing. We're getting very close. That is the Boloki corner right there. They've come round it well. Now the sharp left turn, they'll pass on the left shoulder, the point where Lance Armstrong ran across the field just about there and jumped back in the race and continued to the finish in gap.
Ryder Hagedal now is not too far away from coming onto the main road, and then the flat run in towards the finish. The 3 chasers there, behind the 3 chasers now, it's Thomas Vogler. Vogler is a very good descender. He will take advantage of this descent to put time between himself and the Schleck brothers, with the possibility, he'll be dreaming now of a serious possibility of a podium finish in Paris.
Well, I don't think Andy Schleck was enjoying that descent at all. He was sitting off the back of the peloton. He was a little bit worried about that descent.
Well, in fact, you can see they're just slipping off the back. This is the danger of not being a great descender as we start to plummet down towards the outskirt of Gap. The gaps are appearing on the road to Gap.
This is the changing face of the Tour de France today. And Andy Schleck has announced himself as the big favourite. He has always said he was going to win the Tour. He was going to beat Contador. He wanted him to ride so he could beat him. But for the first time, he's now been put big time on the defensive. Everybody wants to win the stage, and that breakaway has suddenly been the big attraction to break up the Tour de France today.
They're on the flat road now. They're about 2.7 kilometres to go to the finish. A little move there by Thor Hushovd. Obviously a bit concerned about the presence of Bosenhagen. 37 seconds behind is Tony Martin, but still a 30-second advantage for Contador and Sanchez over the Schleck group.
Well, Bosenhagen has gone to the front now. He's willing to work here. He won the stage into Lisieux, his first ever stage win, and his folks, and there's a crash on the bend.
That's Anthony Roux has gone down, and this is a very nasty corner. There's Rojas going round as well. He looks like he might be getting himself a few points on this mountain stage this afternoon.
They've regrouped here at 2 kilometres to go. Hushovd, Hagedal, Hagen. And Team Sky have got a man in the breakaway today who can sprint. And Hushovd will know that, so he'll try and play one off. Fortunate thing for Hagen is it's 2 against 1.
Well, Raim Terame coming across the gap there to the yellow jersey. Thomas Vogler may be doing a very good job of work here this afternoon, because he looks like he's putting a bit of time between himself and Frank and Andy Schleck. But now you can see Cadel Evans now is attacking this descent like a madman, coming across the gap. Alberto Contador, they're actually putting a bit of time between themselves and Sammy Sanchez, which is a bit of a surprise to me.
Well, Sanchez, I don't think likes these are treacherous roads. Our cameras are not doing this road at all justice. This is a really tricky descent. Meanwhile, it's Hagedal who's now setting the pace. Don't be surprised if we see a little attack from number 51 just to try and draw Hagen. He's worried about it.
I think this is really telling the truth that these 2 riders from Garmin-Cervelo are concerned about this young rider, Edward Bosenhagen. That's why they keep attacking one after the other, because you've got you're certain to win if you go across the line on your own, and that's why they're trying to get rid of him. Watch his next move. Is it going to be another move by Thor Hushovd? He's in the best position.
Well, two Norwegians, you know, they won't like to beat one another because they are from Norway, a country that doesn't have many top cyclists. But they're going to have to attack each other now. Thor Hushovd's in the best position for sure. Boysenhagen knows all about him. They're on opposing teams, and Heyerdahl is the man who's being left. I think he'll open up the sprinting Heyerdahl, and Boysenhagen will have to chase him.
Well, he's going to have to lead the sprint out for Ryder Heyerdahl, the Canadian now. He's going to have to play the team man. His teammate Thor Hushovd is the faster of the two, but the question mark is, has Thor Hushovd still got that power left in his legs to beat the youngster? Well, Heyerdahl now starts opening up the sprint.
We will find out now. Boysenhagen won in Lisieux, Hushovd won in Lourdes in this year's Tour de France. Ryder Heyerdahl has never won a stage, and Boysenhagen is going to wait to the last minute to go for the rider in front. He'll have to, because Hushovd will come off his wheel, and he won't counter the movement. Well, he's gone, and that wasn't expected by Boysenhagen. That was a terrific move by Hushovd. Again, the tactics of the man. Now, has he got the legs to do it? Yes, he has. And Boysenhagen was not ready for the jump.
Phil, you said it earlier on in the commentary, he is a great tactician when it comes down to moving away from a breakaway group like this. Fourth place is going to go to Tony Martin. Well, coming across for fifth place there, Mikhail Ignatiev, the right-hand bend now. You know, there's a gap here between Cadel Evans and Alberto Contador. Contador's going to have to ask Sammy Sanchez here for a little bit of a hand to try and nail back the Aussie. Well, Devenon's there being chased by Marco Mercato, and just behind him there it's Andre Grivko. Mercato gets the next position, and then you can see Devenon's just riding in. The next guys to come up to the finish line though should be Cadel Evans, chased dramatically by Alberto Contador. Well, every second could count here for Cadel Evans, who's climbing very close up now into second position in the overall standings. He's concerned about getting a few seconds here and there over Alberto Contador.
Look at the face of this man. This is Andy Schleck here, beaten on the climbs and now on the defensive, and not in a very happy position just now. Cadel Evans, you think he was racing to a stage win in the Tour de France today, but he's not. He's racing for about 11th place on the road as he goes under 1 kilometre to the finish. Cadel Evans is gaining real time as he takes the roundabout here in Gap. One thing is for sure now, Cadel Evans has climbed to second overall on the first day in the Alps today.
Well, he's thrown down the gauntlet as well himself to Alberto Conte, saying, come on, Alberto, if you think that I'm going to take this one lying down, I'm going to attack every possibility that I have through these alpine stages. He knows it's important. The camera there being foreshortening a little bit the distance between him and the chasers. Sammy Sanchez giving a serious hand here to Alberto Contador. He said that if the situation happened and he could help Contador, although they're on different teams, they both come from the same country.
The average speed of the stage, 46 kilometres an hour. These boys have flown into the Alps today, and Cadel Evans has answered all the attacks and now clearly had a plan of his own. We'll watch the clock after he hits the line here to see just how much time he gains. But they're coming back slowly but surely. Little rise up to the line. Determined efforts. Every second looks like it's going to count in this year's Tour de France. They are trying desperately to get him at the same time as Evans. They won't quite do that. Paul Sherwin's got them at 5 seconds behind.
Yeah, next man to come in, Thomas Vogler. He's not going to lie down either. The big battle. These are the guys who are second and third in the standings for the green jersey competition. The big acceleration coming from Rojas. He won't get too many points on today's stage, but every point's going to count for him as Philippe Gilbert comes across him.
And Gilbert takes him on there too, even for the minor placings. And in comes the maillot jaune. Now, was Andy Schleck in that group? He wasn't in that group, he's still coming in. So the yellow jersey has taken time again over Andy Schleck. He's lost a little bit of time to Contador, but he had 4 minutes in hand on him, so he's not too worried. Evans was at 2:06.
Well, Tommy Danielson in this group, Ivan Basso. These are guys who've lost a little bit of time this afternoon on the stage when they probably didn't. Watch out for the Sky Rider there too, because Geraint Thomas is going to be pretty dangerous in the next couple of years.
Well, at the moment, Cadel Evans has picked up 22 seconds of his 2:06 deficit there on Thomas Vogler, as this is every second counts again now for the group that's coming in. 5:31 as they cross the line. So, can you believe this? But they picked up 1 minute 7 seconds on Andy Schleck by Cadel Evans, and that is huge.
Talking of huge, Thor Hushovd, the big Norwegian's tour was getting even bigger, and so was Norway's. his second stage win, and a Norwegian 1-2-3 if you go back a couple of generations in the Heyerdahl family. The rest of the top 8 was filled by riders from the day's breakaway. The real action though was 4 minutes or so behind the winner. Cadel Evans finished alone, gapping Alberto Contador and Samuel Sanchez by 3 seconds, and it would have been more if the two of them hadn't worked together to bring him back. Jose Joaquin Rojas beat Philippe Gilbert in the sprint for 13th at the head of a group containing Thomas Voeckler and Frank Schleck, 21 seconds behind Evans. Ivan Basso lost 54 seconds to the Australian. Andy Schleck lost 109 to Evans, 106 to Contador. Schleck, though, wasn't blaming his lack of descending skills. He wasn't even blaming bad luck or bad weather. He was blaming the route and the people who planned it.
I am pretty disappointed, but more in, I mean, is this really what people want to see? Actually, a race decided in downhill. If I don't know, I don't think that's what I think the parcours is really bad chosen today. We don't want to see riders crashing or riders taking risks. Everybody have family at home, and finish like this should not be allowed.
Did you expect that attack of Contador?
I expected him to attack, yes.
So the day before the High Alps, a small descent to change the standings. Cadel Evans was up to second, 1 minute 45 behind Thomas Voeckler, but more importantly 4 seconds ahead of Frank Schleck and a minute 18 up on Andy. Samuel Sanchez, who'd looked a virtual write-off after the first week, was only 23 seconds further down and 39 seconds ahead of Alberto Contador. Stage 17 took the Tour to Pinerolo in Italy via the first big alpine climbs of the race, the Col de Montgenèvre and Sestriere. But it was another downhill finish, steeper, more treacherous, and even closer to the end than stage 16 had been. The good news for the Schlecks was that at least it was dry on the Col de Pramartino. The bad news was that the tree cover meant sharp transitions from shade to bright sunlight. After being jumped by his compatriots on the previous day's finish, Edvald Boasson-Hagen was attacking off the front on his own. Behind him, everyone was expecting another attack on the Schlecks on the Col de Pramartino.
Now there's a launching attack. We're hearing from the peloton. There it is. The attack by Alberto Contador. And look at the acceleration. This man is beginning to look like the old Alberto Contador. Andy Schleck has got his back wheel. And can you believe Tommy Voeckler has got his back wheel as well?
Well, Tommy Voeckler right there. This is the kind of climb that Alberto Contador likes. It's a steep climb, 3 kilometres to go to the summit for the main field. That's when it kicks into 10%. Cadel Evans is there on the left-hand side. That was the first of a salvo of attacks I would expect from Alberto Contador here this afternoon.
Just look at this. It's like these two were climbing up the Col de Tourmalet last year, side by side. Andy Schleck now just eases in front of Contador. And Voeckler just watches the move. He had no problem there. Neither did Cadel Evans. As they move back up, Pierre Roland comes up to give the yellow jersey some team support here. They've slowed it down again.
Well, over on the left-hand side, Jelle Venendet, the rider from Omega Pharma Lotto, looking very comfortable. Race situation now. Eddie Boasson-Hagen in first place. He's been changed by Hivert of Soor Sojosun, and in third place on the road now at 20 seconds is Bauke Mollema. So he makes his way through this crowd and through this shaded part of this climb, the very difficult climb, the final climb of the day, the Pramartino now. And once he goes over the top, he has 5 miles to go to the finishing line, 8 kilometres. Here is the summit of the climb.
So it's over the top for Edvald Boasson-Hagen. He wins the last climb of the day, but more importantly, will he win his stage? And that would be his second stage after he won in Redon. He is 8 kilometres to go. Hivert has come up alongside Bauke Mollema.
Yeah, these two riders now, Phil, are looking at second and third place on the road now. Andy Schleck has a little dig at the front. He's just, I think this is more psychological than anything else, but this is the acceleration of Contador.
And yet another attack by Alberto Contador. This is what he tried yesterday, and in the end it worked. Now, this time, I think Andy Schleck is much more attentive. I think the mood is here to try and just get a little lead over Schleck and then really test him on this very, very dangerous descent. But just look at Thomas Voeckler, the leader of the Tour de France. He's mixing with these boys and he is living with them.
Frank Schleck over the top. This is the duo of Frank Schleck and Andy Schleck, and this is what they have to do if they want to try and recuperate some of the time they lost yesterday to Alberto Contador. But this is just a tempo that this was not really a major attack coming from Frank Schleck, and still Cadel Evans is sitting there watching the moves.
This has got to be an hors d'oeuvre for tomorrow, and the massive 3-oar category mountains that face these riders on their journey back to France from Italy. They are just addressing each other. They again are advertising who the prize winners will be in Paris. We don't know the order. Just take it. Frank Schleck, Andy Schleck, Contador, Sanchez. These are the boys. And so as the race continues down now, it's a very dangerous descent down now as they make the twist through the tees. Through the trees here. It's a difficult descent and they've got to take it very, very carefully. 4:53, the race for the first place is now on the escape down the hill, but these corners are very, very dangerous indeed, and they've got to watch the bends down here. The result of the mountain, Edward Boysen-Hagen, Mollema and Yver, and there's a massive crash here now. This looks like Galano has gone.
Yes, Yver, it wasn't Bart Mollema, it's Yver who went down. He was taking too many risks down this corner. Watch this one more time. He was so fast, wrong line into the corner. He's very lucky to get a soft landing there, and Bart Mollema gets just around him on that corner.
This is, as we warned, a very, very dangerous descent here. Boysen-Hagen is controlling it well as he continues to go to the finish, and he's clipping these corners as well. He's taking all the risks. He has to here. We've gone back to the main group of the peloton here. They're starting to pick up riders out front.
Well, this is Rem Terame on the front for Cofidis. He sees this as a great opportunity to try and have a crack at the lead in white jersey competition for him. He's second in that competition, but a little bit further back I noticed that the white jersey of Rigoberto Urán was still in contact with the group, only just.
Well, he's a Colombian rider, a young rider, and he's having to fight now in the Tour de France to keep that white jersey on the shoulders of him and for Team Sky, who at the moment are heading for race victory down in Pinerolo, as the peloton here now will shortly begin their descent. Now everybody is dodging the corners down here. They're going to have to take great care, and at the time, paradoxically, they're going to have to take risks as well if they might gain time down here, as Evans and Contador did yesterday. They have gone over the top. The leader is still Edward Boysen-Hagen. He's being chased by Bauke Mollema of Rabobank. Hibbert, we think, has got up himself. Now, what's happened here?
He's gone off again. He went right behind the barriers there. This kid is taking so many risks on the descent, and he was very, very lucky there was an exit.
Oh, good job that they left the gate open today when they parked the car, because that was Jonathan Hibbert who's gone into the car park. Anyway, there's still two riders chasing, and the chasers must be coming up on him. This is the way down to Pinerolo. It is a really, really difficult descent as we race back up now to pick up the Norwegian Hagen.
Boysen-Hagen now looking at around about a 20-second advantage, Phil, over Bauke Mollema. I think it'd be an awful long way back to Jonathan Hibbert because he's been off the road roughly on 3 occasions.
The long straight road, it leads to Pinerolo. It could lead to victory, and in as many days another victory for Norway, unheard of in the Tour de France. And also for Team Sky, trying to repair the damage done when they lost Bradley Wiggins on stage 7 with that accident. They've tried every day to win stages, and now he's got the best chance.
Well, second on the stage yesterday, Phil, remarkably, he was a little bit smarting by the defeat, but this is not surprised to see by me because Thomas Voeckler is one of the great descenders. I hope he doesn't take too many risks because this is a tricky descent, but Voeckler is one of the best.
If you're of nervous disposition, then look away because he does go down well, but look at that, he overcooked the corner. They were through on his inside there. Samuel Sanchez coming through as well, followed by Contador, I think, and now they've got to brake really hard for the left-hand turn. What they're trying to do is take time out of the race leaders on the descent.
Sammy Sanchez is one of the best when it goes to going uphill, but he's also a crack descender. Coming across, I can just see a black and white jersey. That would be one of the riders of Leopard Trek, but which one is it? As Sammy Sanchez pushes it into these corners.
A Boysen-Hagen here, but the chase is really on. This is Alberto Contador in the last days of the Tour de France, returning to his very best. He is trying to take his time back, going downhill, not uphill.
Well, this is all about the Tour de France, and people have said to win the Tour you've got to be great in every different concept of the sport, whether it's time trialing, climbing or riding against the clock. You've got to be able to go downhill fast as well, and Alberto Contador is certainly doing that.
You have got to admire this man now doing this. He's lost time in 16 days of racing. He's got to get it back wherever the opportunity presents itself. He is taking enormous risks here for what will only be a few seconds at the end. Under 1 kilometre to go now for the leader of the race. Boysenhagen is going to get the sought-after stage win, and it's not his first, but his second stage win of the week, of the year. In his first Tour de France, he has been absolutely superb. He won in Redon, and now he's going to win in Italy in Pinerolo.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Phil, if there were any people left at all up there, right up there in Norway, I think they've all got the boat down, because they'll be down here for the weekend to watch these guys, because the Norwegian, 2 bike riders in the race, and we're looking here at stage victory number 4.
Yes, and it wasn't Redon, it was Lisieux where he won as we started our journey south in northern France, and that was his first day out for Sky. This will be his second, repairing all the time the credibility of this incredible team Sky, who in their second Tour de France have really flowered, and it really was a sporting tragedy. They lost their Bradley Wiggins with that broken collarbone, because they may have had a man on the podium in Paris as well. But right now, he has tried and tried and tried again, and he succeeded for the second time. Edvald Boysenhagen straightens his Sky Racing jersey and gets the result.
The amazing thing is, Phil, they came with one strategy, and halfway through, have a look in there.
Well, Thomas Vogler's gone into the same car park as Hiver did. That's the yellow jersey, trying perhaps a little bit too hard.
Well, you know, you have to be very careful. Thomas Vogler was taking risks there to try and get himself back up, and he's being pushed back onto the race road there by one of the spectators at the side of the road.
Well, he might even own the house, and thanks heaven he left the gate open, because that's 2 riders we know have been out into the car park. And now the Maillot Jaune continues to race to preserve his Maillot Jaune today. He should do that as we come down. It's Bauke Mollema who's coming home in second place here. But it is such an incredible chase off the mountain too, as the riders start to finish. Voigtler did a bit of a bunny hopper through that car park, by the way. The sprint for third place now as they race up to the line, taken out by Sandy Cassar down at the finish, as the riders now continue to go mano a mano. Contador racing alongside Samuel Sanchez as they continue to go down towards the finish. They're gaining time, but this time, Paul, they're not with Cadel Evans.
Well, this is 2 men from Spain, 2 men who work together. They know each other extremely well, and Alberto Contador has found himself a fine ally in the Olympic champion, Sammy Sanchez. He's very good at going downhill, but now these 2 men are working together to try and put time between themselves and this man, the overall leader, Thomas Vogler, who took so many risks on the descent there to try and get himself back to the Contador-Sanchez train.
Well done to Alberto Contador. This has been a treacherous descent, but here they are projecting themselves ahead of the peloton. Looking for time here. He looks across at Sammy Sanchez. These boys are rivals but friends, different teams, but know each other pretty well as they work together, racing into Pinerolo. The winner is home. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, they're all home. They're all watching this on television. The Maillot Jaune's been off the road and in the car park. He's still trying to recoup time. I think he'll keep enough in hand to lead the Tour de France tomorrow. But Tommy Voigtler is having to repair the damage.
Well, that should be the group there of Cadel Evans there, the black and red jerseys of Team BMC Racing. You can see this is Tommy Danielson also trying to keep himself in the race this afternoon, with Ivan Basso there, number 91. A little bit further forward, the yellow jersey. In front of the yellow jersey is Cadel Evans, I believe, who started the day 1:45 seconds behind Thomas Vogler in the standings.
And that's why Vogler can keep that group inside. He's wisely slowing down for Tommy Danielson's group there to come in. That's looking down there. That was the group of Cadel Evans and Andy Schleck. They've gone under, couldn't read that, 4K to go, I think it was. Vogler wisely is waiting for the Tommy Danielson group here now, and they'll work together and see if they can close down.
They look like Heimar Zubeldia coming up there to Thomas Vogler, but these 2 men this afternoon, look at the faces on these 2 guys. They know it's all about seconds. It could all be just seconds going into the final time trial around Grenoble between Cadel Evans, Alberto Contador and Sammy Sanchez, and these few seconds here could win or lose somebody the Tour de France this afternoon.
Sanchez sits 5th overall in the Tour de France. Contador sits 6th. The same 2 men have gone together to try and help each other gain time. They're under 1 kilometre to go as they swing into town, as they continue to gain time. Deja vu as yesterday, but this time No Cadel Evans gaining time. Contador is pulling back a little bit of his disadvantage on the descents. He looked over his shoulder there to see if anybody was in sight.
He is powering. I tell you what, Phil, this is setting up to be an incredible next 48 hours once we start to go up to the high spot. Contador normally adores the mountains going upwards, but not necessarily going downwards. The survivors here, Nicholas Roach on the left-hand side there.
As they come up, and that's Martin Jangeli behind and Nicholas Roach. These boys are racing up to the line now. And Divert is there too. Roach comes home. What time has gone by? 4:02 is the gap. That won't make too much difference. This, though, the return of the Schlecks have caught Contador on the run into the finish. These boys are going to come in the same time. Evans is there as well. It's a wipeout on the finish line. They've gained absolutely nothing.
Except on Thomas Vogler, who's the yellow jersey at the start of the day. He probably has lost himself 15 to 20 seconds.
That is amazing. That is amazing. They all came together on the running. Thomas Vogler will lose a little bit of time here, but all of the big favourites suddenly came together in the last couple of 100 metres. He's got to lose 1:45. He won't lose that. He'll keep his maillot jaune and he'll fight to the line to save every single second of it. Vogler keeps maillot jaune. We think his loss will be 25 seconds. They're nibbling at his jersey, but they're not getting it off his shoulders yet.
In the end, 27 seconds was the official nibble count from the timekeepers, but everyone was a three-course meal behind Edvald Bosenhagen. He took a great solo win ahead of Bauke Mollema. Sandy Cazard beat Julien Alvarez and Sylvain Chavanel in the separate sprint for the French stage win. Then it was two Kazakhs either side of a pole, as it were, Dmitry Fofanov, Maciej Petersky and Dmitry Muravyev. After the Schlecks chased back, Frank ended up leading in the group, containing Samuel Sanchez, Alberto Contador, Cadel Evans, Damiano Cunego and his brother. Missing, though, were Thomas Vogler and Ivan Basso, who came in 4 minutes 53 behind the winner, nearly half a minute behind the other big names. Thomas Vogler was still in yellow, but for once his trademark aggression had worked against him. While the Schlecks pussyfooted safely down the Col de Pramartino, his carport detour had cost him seconds he could ill afford to give away in advance of the two giant mountain stages to come.
Well, at the top of the last climb I tried to go alone, and the second round I go wide, then 2 times after the same. And the first time I had to jump about 1 meter, and I was really scared. I was very, very lucky. So at this moment I was just behind Contador and Sanchez, and before Schleck and Evans, and at that time I lost many seconds.
Your climbing is good though. Your climbing uphill.
Yeah, but
good enough for tomorrow?
I don't think so. It's different. 6 kilometers climb, and tomorrow is 35. Different.
35 kilometres and 100 years to be precise. The Tour was celebrating its Alpine centenary on stage 18 with an altitude finish on top of the mountain that had started it all. Since Gustave Garrigou got off and pushed through the mud and the snow in 1911, all the great names had climbed the Col de Galibier on their way to famous stage wins or to overall victory. But in a century of Tour visits, no one had ever won at the top. For the first time ever on stage 18, the race was going to stop to enjoy the view. Hundreds of thousands of fans had turned out for the Galibier's 100th Tour birthday party, knowing that they were going to get 2 stages for the price of 1. On stage 19, the Galibier would be the warm-up act for Alpe d'Huez. On stage 18, though, it was the headliner, the highest summit finish in Tour de France history. So almost a challenge from the race organisers to the riders to produce something special. And there were signs that the big names were plotting something from the makeup of the day's breakaway group. 19 riders, including 2 each from Leopard Trek, BMC and Euskaltel, men who might be useful to their leaders later in the stage. The template for recent tours had been for the favourites to wait for the final climb of the day to open hostilities. But on the climb of the Col d'Issoire, with 60 kilometres still left to race, the template was about to be redesigned.
Andy Schleck has lifted the ante, so he's used his last man, Stuart O'Grady. There's a reaction only from Keremai, I think it is, who has started for Europe Car. Now, can Tommy Voigtler answer this one? They're going to have to do something. He's gone very early.
Tommy Voigtler. What about Alberto Contador and what about Cadel Evans? They've got to respond to this. This is the steepest part of the climb. We're about to go into an area, Phil, called La Casse Desert, the desert of stones, and this is the worst part of the climb. It's 10-11%, and there's no reaction at all from anyone. If Andy Schleck wants to do this, he may well be putting a lot of pressure on the rest of the main field. It gives brother Frank a nice, easy ride.
Well, this has had to have shocked the race leaders because he's gone so far from the finish of today's stage of the Tour de France. They will be unwise not to react to this, and they are hesitating. The teammate of Voigtler has come back here to Voigtler's side. Cadel Evans was right there on the front when the move was made. He's the centre rider of the three, and Contador is in the dead centre of this group, and he's not reacting either.
With the help of his teammate Maxime Montfort, who'd been one of the day's escapees, Andy Schleck rode past the breakaway riders and kept going on his own. As he hit the Galibier, he seemed to be heading not just for an historic stage win, but the yellow jersey. Behind him, Cadel Evans was doing most of the work in a chasing group that had all the other contenders, but no cohesion.
Schleck has just come through, 5 kilometres to go. Cadel Evans is the only man chasing. Everybody else is following the Australian. The gap is down to 3 minutes 14, and second by second, it's a painful way to earn your money, but Cadel Evans is clawing himself back into the Tour. Face of Cadel Evans here now. He doesn't even look at anybody. He just wants, they're the flags of the city of Luxembourg, or the region of Luxembourg, rather than the Grand Duchy itself, and they are going to be waving violently, or they already have been, because this is the peloton who comes through. These people have literally walked up the side of the Col de Galibier. They couldn't even walk up the road today, and they come up the side of it. As the flags are shown to the riders here of the region of the Alps, it's 3:14 is the gap, 3:45 to the Sanchez group now. He's falling away here from a top 3 finish. This is Sanchez here.
With him, Heimar Zubeldia, a former teammate a number of years ago before he moved across to Team Radio Shack. And Eddie Merckx, the winner of 5 Tours de France, and he, Phil, will appreciate a ride like this.
Oh, you can bet your life he's going to shout words of encouragement. This is what Merckx would have done. This is how Merckx would have won his Tour de France. He'd be full of admiration. He's shouting at Andy Schleck.
It's a tough tactic to move at 60 kilometres from the end of a stage of the Tour de France, but when you've got 3 outside categorised climbs, it really is a tall order. Cadel Evans knows that. Cadel Evans should theoretically be a lot fresher. Alberto Contador still happy to hide in the wheels.
Well, the amazing thing is, too, behind all this, yes, we might have a new leader tonight, but the erstwhile leader, Tommy Voigtler, will only drop into 2nd place. And Cadel probably down to 3rd at the end of the day, with one more day in the mountains to come. Voigtler can still think of a podium in Paris after a ride like this.
As we go now past 4 kilometres to go for Andy Schleck, he seems to be a little bit more motivated, Phil. This is the most difficult part of the climb. It's an average gradient of 9% over the next kilometre. And still Cadel Evans out of the saddle, battling with his machine, battling with his body, realising that this is the moment that he has to save the Tour de France. A little bit like you mentioned earlier, Stephen Roach, when he did it in 1987, he had to fight his way back into the Tour, having lost it at the start of the climb.
Well, at the moment, Cadel Evans has gone from being 118 ahead of Andy Schleck back to 150 behind him. He might handle 150 in the time trial on Saturday, he might not.
This is the Sammy Sanchez group. These guys are in all kinds of difficulty as they've still got a long way to go to the top of this climb. Hard to believe, Phil, that 3 kilometres to go, that these roads a couple of days ago were covered with snow.
Well, the impossible is sometimes possible, and Frank Schleck is only 3 seconds behind Cadel Evans overall. And you can pull 3 seconds out in a sprint finish to the top of the Galibier. The Schleck brothers could be on a great day out today.
Cadel's got it locked in now at 3:08. He's not going forwards, he's not going backwards. They're riding at about exactly the same pace as Andy Schleck.
Evans continues to set the pace all the way up the Galibier. No one has helped him. Voigtler be prepared just to follow him. And this is the composition of the group at the moment of Contador, Schleck, Basso, Nicholas Roach, Evans, Cugnaux, Thomas Voigtler, Pierre Rolland. That is it. He's eliminated all of the others on this climb, Cadel Evans. And it looks as though Nicholas Roach just unhitched at the back there as well.
Well, I'm amazed by the yellow jersey of Thomas Voigtler. I think once again the tactics of the race, the way they're riding this race, the tempo riding they're doing actually plays into the hands of Thomas Voigtler. This year's Tour de France will allow this Frenchman to start to dream about possibly coming to the Tour de France next year and trying to win it for France, a title they haven't earned since 1985 and Bernard Hinault. Schleck looking over his shoulder, looking down at the curves and the straight lines a little bit further down the road there, just to see if he can see what is happening. That should be 2 kilometres to go, that banner they've gone by.
2 kilometres to go. At the moment it looks like this. Thomas Voigtler will stay in second place at half a minute. Cadel Evans will be in third at 1:48. Frank Schleck will be fourth, and Contador 3:45. And there is confirmation of Alberto Contador. The champion of the Tour de France the past 2 years is yo-yoing on his favourite playground, and I think that's the end of the Tour de France for him as a winner this year.
Well, that's what Andy Schleck felt, you know, Phil. He said that the Tour de France would be decided in the last week of the race. It was all about the freshness. Alberto Contador's got the Giro d'Italia in his legs. Don't discount the man. He's got a huge heart and he's got a huge bag of courage, and he's pulled himself back into this group. But yes, he's having a hard time.
Pride has done that. Pride has forced him to come back onto the back of that group. He knows now that coming up to the last 2 kilometres of the day, it's been a real tough fight for the champion of the past 2 years and a 3-time Tour winner. He come back, but he's gone again.
Well, he tried with everything. That was the pride of Spain on his shoulders there, trying to push him back into that group.
Evans continues to fight to try and round it out to 3 minutes before Andy gets up to the finishing line. And look how he's reduced this with his incessant pacemaking. There's only 5 riders following Cadel Evans now.
He's churning a massive gear, the rider in the black and red jersey there, Cadel Evans, because all he's thinking about is trying to reduce the deficit onto Andy Schleck. Alberto Contador, well, he's just got to survive now and try and limit his losses, because he could be plummeting down the overall standings and maybe looking at himself dropping outside the top 7 or 8.
He may well decide to retire from the Tour, but I don't think champions do that sort of thing, and Alberto Contador will try again tomorrow, possibly to win at Alpe d'Huez. As all the cheers on top of the Col de Galibier now go to this remarkable ride today, one of the great rides in modern times by Andy Schleck in the Tour de France. He took the race halfway up the Issoire, knowing he had to go early, and he took the risk of blowing his whole Tour de France out the window, and it isn't going to be the case. He should get the yellow jersey tonight. The chase is at 2 kilometres to go.
Separated by a kilometre. That on the slopes of a mountain like this corresponds to 3 minutes. I just saw the tunnel over to the left-hand side, and now he's on the final part of this climb. Alberto Contador is on the back foot in the Tour de France this year. He's never really looked very comfortable at all.
And now this man is getting his revenge. He's looking for yellow tonight and victory in Paris on Sunday.
You might just have noticed all of a sudden the green jersey of Pierre Rolland has come to the front for Thomas Voigtler. He's going to try and save that yellow jersey in the final 2 kilometres of today's stage.
2:37 is what Voigtler will not want to see on the clock, because that will cost him yellow. But they are so close to defending it. We are now just 19 seconds behind, and he could still be in yellow by a second. This is how he lost to eventually to Lance Armstrong.
Well, there's a little word there coming from Voigtler. Come on, let's keep this yellow jersey. He's really struggling. Evans is just there. He's come back. They saw that the French did not have that power. The dream was to try and protect the yellow jersey of Thomas Voigtler this afternoon, but there was no power in the engine room where they shouted down for it, so it's still up to Cadel Evans.
This has been a great fight by Cadel Evans. He's been left alone here. It's been an easy ride for Frank Schleck in many ways in the black there, who's watched his brother fly away today. But look now, 2:44. There is still a chance here for Voigtler to keep his lead. Andy is just praying for the end of the stage now. I think the legs have cried enough is enough. He's fighting now. Yes, he's getting time gains, but is he going to get yellow?
But what is he going to do tomorrow? He's got to come about and do this all over again as Cadel Evans slowly pulls it back. 2:41, the yellow jersey, 2:40. It's now starting to tip towards the conservation of the yellow jersey by Thomas Vogler, and he's going to have to say a big thank you very much, mate, to Cadel Evans.
Absolutely. 2:36, and Vogler keeps yellow, and it is tumbling down. Andy Schleck is now absolutely on his limit here. Where is the finishing line as the clock continues to descend? It is 2:40 and falling. The empty road of the Col de Galibier, one man against the field and the clock.
The clock at 1 kilometre to go, Phil, has just said 2:35, so Thomas Vogler has climbed himself back into the overall leader.
I don't believe this is an incredible tour. Take your hat off to this man today. He has been the most magnificent attacking cyclist in modern times in the Tour de France. But he's a matter of a kilometre too far. The legs are folding beneath his body here as he comes up to the line. He will win the stage, and that he thoroughly deserves, and he might win the Tour de France by Sunday. But is he going to be in yellow tonight, or is this incredible Frenchman, Tommy Vogler, going to be in yellow for the 10th day? And he gets it. The clock starts now. 2 minutes 37 seconds is the time that will be wanted to be seen by Andy Schleck to be the yellow jersey tonight. Vogler is now lifting the pace. He must have been told he can keep yellow tonight. That's why he's trying to find the last few things. 45 seconds has gone by, 46 and counting. As now Cadel Evans again turns. He needs every second he can get to try and stay in this race, because the time trial will favour Cadel Evans.
Well, Frank Schleck sitting on his shoulder there. That's psychologically, again, though, a minute has gone by. Cadel Evans is the one still trying to save the jersey for himself later on in the Tour de France, but also today for Thomas Vogler, who has been incredible on today's stage in the mountains. And Frank Schleck just sitting there waiting for the moment to pounce.
Well, as we claw and crawl our way up to the top of the Col de Galibier, we are looking for 2:37, and that will be curtains in yellow for Thomas Vogler, who will be timed right to the line. He's got to fight all of the way. He knows what he's got to do. He's running now into the last minute to the summit to retain his yellow, 1:38, and going forward now. He's 100 metres to go. Now, there's no surprise. Frank Schleck has watched and waited. He'll sprint away for second place, but watch where the clock stops for the yellow jersey. 1:52. He's only 100 metres from the front. He's got to sprint. This is taking the clock back 7 years for little Tommy Vogler as Frank Schleck comes away at 2:04. The gap for him. Now Evans, he's got it down to just on 2 minutes. He was 1:18 behind. Now he's not that far behind overall. 2:37. He's going to keep his yellow jersey. Take those pictures back to 2004. It is incredible, Paul. I just don't believe it. What a fighter.
Unbelievable. I don't think very many people would have given him a chance of keeping the overall lead this afternoon, but there's not very much in it, Phil. What kind of a day is it setting itself up for tomorrow?
Well, absolutely. There have been heroes galore today in the Tour de France. The biggest of them all, I suppose, yes, is Andy Schleck. But this man, 10 days in yellow now and refuses to lie down. And Cadel Evans had to fight to stay in the Tour de France today, and he's achieved that as well.
Another 1.5 minutes behind Thomas Vogler was Alberto Contador, struggling over the line on the wheel of the polka dot jersey Jelle van Endert. And another 52 seconds behind them came Samuel Sanchez. A bad day for the two Spaniards who've been looking so strong in the past few stages. Here's the stage result then. Andy Schleck, 2 minutes and 7 seconds ahead of his brother. Cadel Evans riding to limit his losses to 2 minutes 15, and in the process pulling a group containing Ivan Basso and Thomas Vogler along with him. Basso was fourth at 2 minutes 18. And Thomas Vogler, who started the day 2:36 ahead of Andy Schleck and started the final climb over 4 minutes down, lost 2:21 at the line to keep his jersey by 15 seconds. So Andy Schleck had gone from complaining about dangerous descents to riding away to the highest stage win in Tour history, while the presence of his brother Frank behind encouraged their rivals to waste time looking at each other until Cadel Evans had taken charge. Of course, thanks partly to Evans pulling the group up the Galibier like a diesel locomotive, one man who hadn't lost any places on GC was Thomas Voeckler. His lead, though, was down to 15 seconds, and up to second place behind him was Andy Schleck. Frank Schleck was third at 1 minute and 8 seconds, 4 seconds ahead of Cadel Evans instead of 4 seconds behind. Damiano Cunego was up to 5th on the same time as Ivan Basso, 3 minutes 46. Alberto Contador was 4 minutes 40 down in 7th place. Samuel Sanchez 8th at 5:20. Now, half an hour after all that drama, another drama began. The cut-off time for elimination from the Tour ticked past and there was no sign of Mark Cavendish. He finally arrived in a group 35 minutes 40 behind the winner. The good news for him was that he had 87 other riders with him, more than half the field. And the rules allow for the reinstatement of a group arriving outside the cut-off if it's more than 20% of the peloton. The bad news was the rules also specify that those riders should be punished by the loss of 20 green jersey points. And since Jose Joaquin Rojas had been inside the time limit, Cav's lead was suddenly down from 35 to 15. The worst news for Mark was that he was in danger of losing another 20 the following day. Stage 19 took the riders back over the Galibier from the other side and onto the Tour's final mountain finish at Alpe d'Huez. The most famous climb in cycling is also the most packed, the most drunken and the most orange, long since having been colonised by the Dutch, who've turned it into the world's steepest beer garden.
There's the sign, 13.8. The finish line sits atop Alpe d'Huez. This is the climb that has seen so many of the big names in the sport of cycling seal their victories. Names like Greg LeMond, Bernard Hinault, Lance Armstrong, you name them. That when they've got to the top of this mountain, they've seen Paris in yellow. And now we've got a Canadian, the only Canadian in the race. And amazingly, Paul, there are hundreds of Canadian people on the top today. We met most of them last night. And that rider Hejerdal now is in a perfect position with Pierre Roland to go for the stage win. Not the Tour win, but the stage win. And that is a big deal.
Well, this is Fuglsang coming to the front. He's had a pretty easy ride as well. He's been in a number of groups out on the course as we're trying to see BMC place Cadel Evans. He's ridden alone on a number of occasions. He's come right up to Fuglsang. He was beaten on this slope a few years ago by Carlos Sastre, who put a massive big attack in. And Cadel Evans now has got that big diesel engine in full swing.
The concentration now. Cadel Evans knows he's got to ride. He's got to keep his eye on two riders, Andy and Frank Schleck, as he rides now for Australia's first victory. It looks as though the yellow jersey, although he came back with an incredible chase, is now slipping through the pack. But this now is Cadel Evans, and coming up alongside him, Fuglsang is bringing up the two boys, Andy Schleck and Frank Schleck. Now watch to the left of your picture, because here we go. Will there be an immediate reaction after Alberto Contador? Because he's lost nearly 5 minutes in the Tour de France, and it is only 12 kilometres to go. Fuglsang has lifted the tempo.
Fuglsang has got Andy Schleck on his wheel and he's riding slowly across the gap. The reaction is coming, though, from Cadel Evans, who's seen this as a danger point. He's only going to follow one man. He's not really concerned about Alberto Contador. He's got a pretty good buffer over him in the standings, but he does have to make sure he keeps in contact with Andy Schleck. There he is. The Australian is locked onto the wheel of Schleck.
The determination of Contador, who wants some consolation from the Tour, and victory at the top of the Alp would be major consolation for the three-time winner. And you know, I'm not so sure Andy Schleck has got it right now. Cadel Evans has locked into him.
Well, Cadel Evans is locked right onto the wheel there of Schleck. That's all he's going to look for as we look at the damage this race is doing now. It has all come down to the Alpe d'Huez once again.
What a race on Alpe d'Huez here. The defending champion refuses to go out of the television screen and die gracefully. He's fighting his way back. He's too far behind, we think, to win the Tour de France. If he wins by minutes at the top, he might take his time back in the time trial. And now he's gone out of sight around the hairpin bends.
Well, the rider Hejerdal and Pierre Roland look across and say, wow, this is Alberto Contador. He's come straight across the gap to us. Contador is looking for huge time this afternoon. He's also looking for some glory as well. Andy Schleck is concentrated. He knows what he has to do. He has to try and get time between himself and Cadel Evans. But after being up the front of this race for such a long time today and yesterday, I'm not sure he's got the giclette or the attack to get rid of Evans on this climb.
As Contador has caught the men who started the moves now, and Pierre Roland grits his teeth. This guy's a real man for the future. He's only a youngster, But now this is about the pass winner versus the other boys who wants his crown.
Well, Phil, at the start of the day, there was a 3-minute 32 gap between Cadel Evans and Alberto Contador. Now, if he goes crazy on this climb and he pulls out a minute and a half or 2 minutes, he could put himself back into the Tour de France this afternoon in the time trial tomorrow.
And no one would have thought that was possible at all. The face of Andy Schleck as he now tries to get rid of Cadel Evans. Evans rides in his slipstream without any problem as he continues up the lower slopes of the climb. Evans does not look in any trouble here, and he may find, if the gap does open, he may have to attack Andy Schleck and steal back seconds off him and close down seconds on Contador.
Just looking here, number 45, Bauke Mollema, and in fact in a little while we'll go around what they call Dutch corner, corner number 7. It will completely be painted in orange, and there's a big sign out there, and they've been shouting for Bauke Mollema since early on in the morning.
Ryder Hejerdal is now feeling the wind behind of the arrival of Andy Schleck and Cadel Evans on the climb. They're going to have to keep chasing Contador. We've got no time checks yet. Yes, we've just got one. They're 36 seconds behind Contador now.
Well, 36 seconds, that makes the difference between Cadel Evans and Contador. 3 minutes now in the overall standings. Cadel Evans, I think, a little bit later on, rather than just watching Andy Schleck, he's going to have to come up and start to work with him to try and pull back the Spaniard.
10 kilometres to go for Alberto Contador. He started the day 4 minutes 39 seconds down, and he's fighting his way back into the picture. He's pulled back 33 seconds at the moment.
Well, he's getting into that zone now, and he's really all of a sudden bounced back in the Tour de France this afternoon, Phil. 30 seconds is the gap that he's got over Schleck and Evans, and he's looking like for a very likely leader, very likely winner of the stage here this afternoon.
Which would be not inconsiderable consolation for the former champion of Spain and the 3 times winner of the Tour de France and the emphatic winner of this year's Giro d'Italia. They now pass under that same 10-kilometre banner. Life's getting a bit complex in the pack here in the race for second place, though, that's for sure. And Evans won't panic. He will be told by his team car the time gaps. He will know exactly where Contador is, as will Andy Schleck. So they're going to hold themselves, because this levels out in the middle as Contador is on the top corner there. And now what's happening? A little tester?
Well, Frank Schleck's having a go now, immediately covered by Cadel Evans, moving up into 3rd position. Andy Schleck, this was what we expected to come, but I think as soon as he sees Cadel Evans there, he'll sit up, and maybe we'll see another counter move coming from Andy.
This is one Schleck sandwich that's going to give them indigestion, because Cadel Evans is marking both of them right now, and he still does not look like a man under pressure. They are using what energy they have left after a week in the Alps to try and dump the Australian, and I'm not sure they can. This man who's lost too much time for the moment to win the Tour de France, but that is a temporary situation. Ask me in another 20 minutes, he might be out to win the Tour de France.
Well, he could be. He's not looking comfortable. He doesn't look like he's enjoying this. It's not the fluid action we've seen before. He's being chased at around about 20 seconds by Pierre Rolland. Rolland is not actually giving up too much space here, and he, in fact, I think, is riding an incredible race at 24 years of age. All of a sudden, we may be looking at the renaissance of French cycling.
Here's the lonely figure of Thomas Voeckler, who has gone out of the lead of the Tour de France with total pride. Today he's ridden absolutely brilliantly. There's an attack by Peter Velitzer from HTC. Another surprise man, may not be an immediate reply to this, although it looks might be Sanchez is replying.
Sanchez has seen that he's got himself a little bit of a gap there, and he's looking to try and keep himself well up in the top 10 at the end of the day. Now, he could be a dangerous rider, Sanchez. He was one of the strongest riders on the previous Col de Galibier.
He was. He dropped out after a terrific ride through the Pyrenees. He got right up amongst the leaderboard. He's dropped out to 8th place yesterday at the end. He's 5 minutes 20 behind Voeckler, and take off 15 seconds. He's 5:05 behind Andy Schleck, who's the leader on the road right now. And, but he seems to have recovered entirely today. He's had a very, very good day's racing. But it's still the story of the renaissance of the winner of the Tour de France 3 times, Alberto Contador. This is the picture I'd love to see, but the riders must never see it.
No, it's absolutely horrendous. Those are the 21 switchbacks that takes the race right the way up to Alpe d'Huez. That's not Alpe d'Huez there, that's just the small town of Oison. A little bit further up, you see the zigzags continue right up, and that's where the finishing line is, right in that hamlet on the top of the Alpe.
2:19 back to the yellow jersey, but now Sanchez is also going away. He's not going to be reacted on by the others because he's lost too much time now.
Well, it's now up to brother Frank to do the pacemaking. Cadel Evans just concentrating on the Schleck brothers. He knows exactly which riders he doesn't mind letting go in this race. It's all a question now of starting to calculate.
And rider Heyerdahl, who made the move, has found the strength to stay with the Evans-Schleck group at the moment, just coming into our picture there. And that is a tremendous ride by the Canadian to hang on. Looking at the face now of Peter Velits as he comes up to the summit. Well, not the summit, but the next village along the way of Way. We're now looking at Sanchez licking his lips in the distance, the group they have just left. Rui Costa here. Now he's going backwards from the leaders into the group at the moment, I think.
It's a little move by Thomas de Gent trying to get off the front. Surprising to see him riding at the front end of this race with the men that are in that breakaway group, while a lot further back Thomas Vogler using huge chunks of time. Phil, I've got him now down at in excess of 2.5 minutes in arrears.
Alberto Contador, is he doing enough to at least get on the podium? That's not a bad place to be as the defending Tour champion in the first 3 positions. This is certainly a determined day out for him. Well, just looking here at the moment, the gap is beginning to be prized. Opening, Voigtler's group is back to 2:40, but the gap is still holding here. Sanchez is putting Velits into trouble now as the red jersey of Evans takes up the running again. Andy Schleck is having to do the pacemaking, and Cadel Evans follows this time from Riblon, then Cugnaux, then Frank Schleck, and then rider Heyerdahl. And the cheers now are for Alberto Contador. They were boos at the prize presentation nearly 3 weeks ago. Now they are cheers.
Well, you know what, Phil, this is an amazing ride back into the Tour de France by Contador. 36 seconds he is ahead of Sammy Sanchez, 53 seconds ahead of the Andy Schleck group, and that's getting very close up to the 1 minute mark. But now I think Andy Schleck himself is starting to take responsibility of making sure Alberto Contador doesn't get too much of a time advantage.
Sanchez is now picking up Pierre Rolland. Rolland's seen him. He might try and raise the pace just a little.
Well, he'll try to take a little bit of inspiration from seeing the way that the Spaniard is riding. He'll try and get onto his wheel and hold onto it for as long as possible, because what he's looking at is the possibility of trying to get himself a top 3 finish. And of course, at the end of the day for the Frenchman, he wants to try and get himself the best young rider competition. He's only 24 years of age.
The lone furrow of Alberto Contador, 27 seconds back to Sanchez and Rolland. A minute exactly now, the computer says. So the reaction here by Andy Schleck is closing the gap. And Cadel Evans, in that style he always has of concentration and rocks out the saddle, he's just sitting there and waiting. I think there's plenty left in that tank. Further up the roads, the lone figure of Alberto Contador, 3-time champion. And really, they shouldn't be running in front of those cars. It's not a healthy thing to do.
No, he's going around Dutch corner there. You can see it's painted in orange. And if you ever fancy an all-night party, well, that's the place to go the day before the Tour de France actually comes to finish on the Alpe d'Huez. And then the crowd are going crazy.
This is Dutch corner, and they had hoped to be cheering. Robert Hessing up to the lead here. He's had a terrible tour. Again, crashes for him. So they're reserving their cheers now for Alberto Contador, and that'll be quickly followed by Andy Schleck. Contador carries number 1, 3-time winner of the Tour de France. The crowd wave him through here, a little bit more passive than lower down the slopes. A Spanish Basque flag just being waved at him here as he continues to climb up towards the summit of Alpe d'Huez. Behind at 21 seconds, Sanchez Rolland, 5 kilometers to the finish, 3 miles. You can actually see the chalets on the top, but we can't show them to you at the moment. Peter Velits, Thomas de Gent are at 40 seconds, and the Schlecks and Evans are at 56 seconds. They're holding him, but boy, what hard work. The crowd again a little bit crazed at the moment here as they try to close down the gaps. The spread is 2 minutes and 53. It's 1:05 now. They've opened a little bit of gap on the Schleck group. Now, Schleck is having a word with Evans here, and Evans is saying, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying. They're trying to talk to each other, and I think that Andy Schleck wants Cadel Evans to start chasing. And Cadel, I think, has said no.
Well, he's just going to do one thing. Cadel Evans has only one thing he needs to do, and that's to watch Andy Schleck, because he believes that he can beat him in the individual time trial. A little shake of the head there. I think he said, no, mate, I'm not going to work with you this afternoon.
If you're outnumbered 2-1, would you help?
Absolutely not. He knows what his tactics is. He's seen the attacks come from all of these guys. The damage is being done at the back here, because I have to say, Thomas Vogler at 5 kilometers to go is still trying to keep himself in this Tour de France. He won't lie down, this man. He will go down with a fight.
This will be Frank Schleck leading the group now over the top at 4 kilometers to go. and not over the top, still climbing.
Climbs all the way to the summit here as Frank dispenses of the sunglasses here this afternoon as he continues to nod on his machine. He realises this is a very tough end to the Tour de France, and tomorrow, let's not forget, we've got to do it all again and come out with an individual time trial.
Sanchez looks at Roland. There can't be much left in that youngster's legs, but he's still hanging on to Samuel Sanchez.
There's not very much left in the legs of Alberto Contador now. Let's not forget, he's the man who made the move early on in the race over the first kilometres of the Col du Telegraph. It's now down to 12 seconds, the difference between Contador and the Olympic champion Sammy Sanchez and Pierre Rolland.
I do believe they are going to catch him. Now, as you tell me all the time, Paul, Sanchez is a great friend of Alberto Contador. What's going to happen when he catches him?
You go for the win, mate. Why wouldn't you? Because Sammy Sanchez is an Olympic champion. He doesn't want to drag Pierre Rolland up to the top of this climb, though, and he's asking the young Frenchman, do you want to work with me? I wonder what language they're speaking.
He just said no. He just shook his head quite plainly and simply. So it's up to Sanchez. You can't come this close to the head of the race on a stage like Alpe d'Huez and give it away. So you've got to go for it in the end. And Pierre Rolland, remember, the French have not won a stage of this year's race. They're running out a road as well.
So further down the slope, Phil, it's almost 3 minutes now for Thomas Voeckler. He's lived the dream for 10 days and he's had the weight of France on his shoulders. I think they were all beginning to think that he was going to win the Tour de France. They thought that if he could survive to the top of the Col de Galibier, he could take it all the way up to Paris.
And look at this now. Sanchez has brought up to Contador Pierre Rolland. You can see his face to see how hard the climb is, and Rolland has gone through on the inside, and I'm just wondering if he's made a move there because the camera's missed it, but I think Pierre Rolland attacked immediately. There he is.
Well, I tell you what, that's very surprising as Sammy Sanchez made the move right the way up and he caught Alberto Contador, and at that point, I think when he went round that corner, it was so steep, he was caught out of breath.
Well, that was a great piece of thinking for the youngster in France in green here, Pierre Rolland. Contador just about hooked up, but already at his limit is Samuel Sanchez. If Rolland slows down, Sanchez might come back here. But this is a different battle. This is the battle for the win. If they start this infighting, then the boys from behind are going to close in. Currently, they're 63 seconds, just gone up to 66 seconds behind.
Well, how happy are the French going to be with this Tour de France now, Phil? Because they've had the yellow jersey for 10 days on the shoulders of Thomas Voeckler, and now they could very well be looking at the possibility of a stage victory on one of the most iconic races, most iconic mountains that the Tour has to offer.
And on the same team as the yellow jersey, Thomas Voeckler. Then Cadel Evans has gone. This is the answer now for Australia. Now, can Schleck contain himself? He's gone with him. He never misses a move, does he, Andy Schleck?
He does not miss a mover. There's attacks all over the slopes of this mountain now as we're racing to try and win the yellow jersey. Other riders are racing to try and win the individual stage, and Cadel Evans has almost got himself across to Damiano Cugnaux in the blink of an eye.
Cugnaux won't know what's coming on, and Pierre Rolland has dropped Contador. France is racing to its first stage win on the iconic stage of Alpe d'Huez, and on a day when Europcar lose the individual lead, they get the new man in the white jersey and could be a stage win as well.
Well, it's amazing to think that Sammy Sanchez did the bulk of the work coming across there. He caught up his mate Alberto Contador. They're shouting at each other to work together now to try and get back to the Frenchman just a little bit further up the road. Alberto Contador has given everything this afternoon. There's the Frenchman just around the corner looking back to see what the gap is. Oh, well, I can tell him it's 11 seconds.
It's a winning gap, I think. I better correct myself. It's his third Tour de France, but we didn't know him. He was on a different team last time and he never ever distinguished himself, but he has now, as he's gone to the new Europcar team, inspired as the man who's looked after the yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler over every mountain and kept him in yellow for as long as he could. Now he's going to try and get the best young rider's jersey and the stage win. Sanchez will be kicking himself because he took him up, and Evans goes again, and this time he never misses. He's after him again. Andy Schleck has gone. They've gone around Peter Velits and Thomas de Gent.
Well, now Evans is looking for second and third place on the road, or fourth place on the road, because just ahead of him now, not too far ahead, are these two riders who are losing incredible chunks of time as they go on the Flamme Rouge, the red kite. 1,000 metres to go for the Frenchman.
And you know, by the end of this day, we won't know the winner of the Tour de France either. It's going to be so close, and it goes down to a little time trial around Grenoble tomorrow, 42 kilometres. After all these thousands that we've ridden through this really tough course, Pierre Rolland is grimacing with pain here. He's got that little bandage, little plaster which widened out his nostrils so he can get more air in across the bridge of his nose. How is he going to feel here, climbing up this hallowed road here all the way to the summit of Alpe d'Huez, and to an enormous cheer. Alpe d'Huez, a French winner, a white jersey. They lose the yellow, it'll be a forgotten thing.
Well, Sammy Sanchez has gone. This is a last scuttle across. He's left Alberto Contador behind. Contador, I have to say, was the champion of the day today, the bravest man out in this bike race, but the man who's taken advantage of a rough day of racing on the final day of the Alps is a Frenchman, Pierre Olonne. About 500 metres to go. He's going to take the left-hand turn very short, left-hand turn very shortly, and he'll see the finish line in front of him.
And he climbs all the way up to the line. Listen to the cheers now as he lines up for the finish. We've seen all the stars of the Tour de France do this one. He can still drive. The time doesn't worry too much now. This is going to be a huge cheer, and the Frenchman gets the win at Alpe d'Huez. As the crowd cheer, a two-arm salute, look, it's me, and he gets a white jersey as well. And it's the Olympic champion, Samuel Sanchez, who comes home, and for many, the hero of the day, Alberto Contador, who will cross the line in third place.
Well, Alberto Contador tried to do everything to turn this race upside down this afternoon, and what a phenomenal performance by him. 34 kilometres an hour. Not really a good time to remind you that the elimination time this afternoon will be about 25 minutes, and I would think there's a lot of riders a long way back. Andy Schleck now is coming up to the line, and he's caught up everybody.
Taking on Vellic as they come in. Schleck determined. Evans must keep that gap closed down. There'll be time gaps if they don't as they race towards the line. Now Vellic is going to take on Andy Schleck. Look at this, and there'll be no split time here because Evans is making a dash for the line. Evans wants to prove a point, and he usually finishes off with victory, but today he'll have to pay second fiddle to Peter Vellic, who is going to survive best. But in second place, it's Cadel Evans. I reckon tonight, in hindsight, he may have won the Tour de France tomorrow, so he sits 57 seconds behind Andy Schleck when they start tomorrow in the time trial. And this will seal up the team Garmin-Cervelo as they finish Ryder Hesjedal and Tommy D'Angelo. But tomorrow, Paul, it will be Andy Schleck in the maillot jaune.
It will be Andy Schleck. What a fight by the Schleck brothers here this afternoon. And there's going to be a huge cheer also, because you can hear them and they can just about see the yellow jersey coming around the corner. That's Thomas Voeckler. He's ridden exceptionally well, I have to say, today, Phil. I don't know where he's got all of his strength from, because he almost made it back into the group.
Listen to the crowd. He's getting a bigger cheer than the winner of the race today, and he's determined to show his colours at the front of this group. He had 15 seconds at the start of the day now, and he's lost 3 minutes of that, but it doesn't matter. He has gone out in a cloud of glory today, and well done to Voeckler. He won't be in yellow tomorrow, but he'll certainly be a better known person because of it.
The yellow jersey had changed hands then, but had the green. Once again, Mark Cavendish came in with a large group outside the time limit, but this time Jose Joaquin Rojas was with him, so they both lost 20 points, and Mark kept his lead of 15. The French had lost the race lead, but they'd finally registered a stage win and taken hope for the future, because Pierre Rolland had taken the lead in the Best Young Rider competition. And since Alpe d'Huez was the final climb of the Tour, the Mountains title was decided too. Samuel Sanchez won it. After the heroics of his 10 days in yellow, Thomas Voeckler had slipped from first to one place off the podium. Andy Schleck was the new leader of the race, 53 seconds ahead of his brother and 57 ahead of Cadel Evans. Voeckler was 2 minutes 10 down in fourth. Damiano Cunego was still fifth, 14 seconds ahead of Alberto Contador. Samuel Sanchez seventh at 4 minutes 22, while Ivan Basso slipped to eighth, 4:40 behind the new yellow jersey. It was the first yellow jersey of the race for the man most people had tipped beforehand to be wearing it in Paris. All Andy Schleck had to do was hold off Cadel Evans in the time trial on stage 20. So after 4 summit finishes in the Alps and the Pyrenees, 42.5 kilometres of time trialling, the only individual time trialling kilometres of the race, were going to decide the winner. And since the two individuals involved had occupied the second step on the podium for the past 4 years, there was huge pressure on both of them. The course was actually exactly the same one used in the Critérium du Dauphiné 6 weeks previously. That had been won by HTC's Tony Martin, and he was setting the best time at all the intermediate checks.
He's rewriting the checkpoint times.
There's a new best time by 37 seconds, 40 minutes and 26 seconds. Tony Martin, Phil, will be very motivated by the fact that he knows he's won on this course before.
Cadel Evans, he looks ahead. What does he see? A yellow jersey and the Arc de Triomphe? or is he going to be beaten by Andy Schleck? Two great cyclists who've gone head-to-head for 21 days. It's come down to 42.5 kilometres.
Impressive speed here. We're looking at 80 kilometres an hour on the clock, and as we look up, we're looking onto the back of Tony Martin.
55.33 is the best time for Tony Martin, and that is going to take some beating. He's always feared Cadel Evans, and he's always said it. The Maillot Jaune of the Tour de France on the eve of its end in Paris is on the road.
Well, just a quick look at the computer there, Phil. They were showing that Cadel Evans at this point had already pulled back around about 10 seconds on Andy Schleck.
Are we witnessing the first ever winner of the Tour de France of Australia? 12 seconds is now the gap virtual. He's already pulled back 45 seconds of his 57 deficit. They are equal on time. Cadel Evans and Andy Schleck.
They're turning it over now. 1 second advantage to Cadel Evans over Andy Schleck. Now this is going to be a huge battle all the way down on the running towards the finish.
Evans, look at his face here. He is riding to win the Tour de France for Australia today. And he's only 7 seconds slower than Tony Martin. As the clock continues to count now towards the finish at this next checkpoint for Andy Schleck. He goes through with a time of 42.15. He's 2 minutes 18 behind Cadel Evans. Cadel Evans cannot be beaten now. He is over a minute to the good. He has absolutely slaughtered his opposition. His time is 55.40. It's second best on the day, but he's won the Tour de France. He had hoped the magic of the yellow jersey would have brought him victory tomorrow in Paris. The magic hasn't worked on this occasion, but one of the most popular men in the world of cycling is racing home to close down this incredible stage of the Tour de France, which has seen an Australian get the final yellow jersey to ride to Paris in tomorrow.
The end of the day was the end of Andy Schleck's one day in the yellow jersey, suffocated by unwanted attention at the finish line and beaten by a better, faster Cadel Evans, who'd finally taken the drama out of this most dramatic of tours by powering round the course to turn a 57-second deficit into a 1 minute 34 margin of victory. This was the stage result, Tony Martin winning over the circuit for the second time in 6 weeks. Cadel Evans only 7 seconds away from the stage win himself. Alberto Contador had faded after a blistering start. He was third at 1 minute and 6 seconds. Thomas again fourth, Richie Porte fifth, Jean-Christophe Perrault 6th, Samuel Sanchez 7th and Fabian Cancellara 8th. Finally in yellow, and very nearly in tears as he crushed the complimentary leader's lion with the emotion of it all, Cadel Evans had taken the lead at the best time possible on the eve of Paris when it can't be taken back. His winning margin, 1 minute 34 over Andy Schleck, made it sound more comfortable than it had been. Frank did hold off Thomas Voeckler pretty comfortably to take third by 50 seconds. Alberto Contador moved up to 5th with his time trial ride. Samuel Sanchez also moved up to 6th, the pair of them leapfrogging Damiano Cugnaux and Ivan Basso, who slipped to 7th and 8th.
20 years since I watched my very first Tour de France on TV, and 20 years I've been cycling. It's a lot of hard work from me, a lot of hard work from a lot of people. Well, not as many as most people think, but some really great people who have believed in me in all this time, and it just makes it all the more worthwhile, I think, when you succeed in the ambitious goals that we've set for ourselves.
So on to Paris for the ceremonials. Ceremonials for the yellow, white and polka dot jerseys, that is. Mark Cavendish still had to make absolutely sure of the green. And Cadel Evans didn't seem entirely comfortable with the traditional final day cocktail party. Once the photographers had filled their compact flashcards, he swapped his yellow bike for the one that had helped him get yellow in the first place. As usual, things only got serious once the race hit the Champs-Élysées. Very serious for Mark Cavendish, who was chasing a pair of historic firsts, the first British rider to win the green jersey and the first rider of any nationality to win the final stage in Paris 3 years running.
Now all that Mark Cavendish wants to do is win the last stage, and that will also confirm his green jersey.
There's only one man at the front of this race now, and it's Mark Cavendish's own teammate as he sweeps across on the Champs-Élysées. Ben Swift is back in the peloton. Now this is going to be a rather interesting final 2.5 kilometres once they get themselves to the Rue de Rivoli.
Round the back, heading now for our last visit beneath the garden of the Tuileries as the peloton still tries to wrap this up. Desperate moments. Lars back. The first man to congratulate back if he were to win would be Mark Cavendish. Just reward for all the work he has done for Cavendish throughout 3 weeks of the Tour de France, but it's not going to happen. They're all together, led by the champion of Belgium, Philippe Gilbert.
Also the rider from Garmin in the blue helmet, that was Christian van der Velde whipping up the pace. All of a sudden, Lars back has been wiped away. Hushoft into second position, looking over his shoulder. He's looking to see if he can find the shape of his own team sprinter, Tyler Farrer. Taking a back seat now, just for a little while. You've got Bernie Eisel, but behind Bernie Eisel, you've got Matty Goss, you've got Mark Renshaw, then you've got Tony Martin in the mix somewhere, and the green jersey of Cavendish. Cavendish back now is in the driving seat.
There, leading out, Rojas is in a brilliant position now to get the drop on Cavendish. And if Rojas finishes a few places ahead of Cavendish, Cavendish will lose his green jersey. This is the last turn down under the gardens. Then when you come out, you're 1 and a bit kilometres from the line.
Now they go under this tunnel of the Louvre now for the last time. They'll take the left-hand bend, and then all of a sudden across the road there, Phil, they will start to see that red kite, which will indicate the final kilometre of the Tour de France 2011, and still they're waiting to pick up the pace, Team HTC High Road. They've been here before. They've taken Mark Cavendish to the victory on 2 occasions on this very street, on this very avenue, and they will wait until the last possible moment to open up their firepower. Here it comes now. This is Bernie Eisel.
This is not a usual finish for them, but it looks as though Eisel this time has got himself under control. Cavendish is trying to hold position at the back behind Mark Renshaw. 900 metres to go to the end of the Tour de France. Cavendish has won twice here before. Can he get the hat-trick as they change partners at the front?
Tony Martin now, the winner of the time trial yesterday, is right up into first position. Behind him it's Matty Goss. Behind Matty Goss it's Renshaw. They've lined up the first 4 positions here as they come across the Place de la Concorde for the last time.
The world champion peels off. He's done his job for Tyler Farrer. So Hushoff drops out of it. Now, this is where the missile launched as we entered onto the Champs-Élysées 2 years ago when he won by a mile. It's a deja vu. It's just Cavendish now is in the third wheel. They've left it later because of the headwind that blows down this straight. Now Renshaw will go. Cavendish is going with him. Boysenhagen is trying to get on his wheel. He'll never be as fast as Mark Cavendish. Eyes down, because this one will be Mark Cavendish's third win. As try as they might, Mark Cavendish gets win number 3 of his in history on the Champs-Élysées. He gets his 5th stage win of the Tour de France, and as he just told us, he gets the green jersey as champion. And once he's clear, there's no way that man ever runs out of fuel.
A predictable end to a massively unpredictable tour, but still a pretty thrilling one, as Mark Cavendish stage wins usually are. 5 stage wins, 20 in 4 years, a sprinting career that's heading towards being the best we've ever seen, and finally, after 3 years of disappointment, the green jersey that should go with all that for Mark Cavendish.
So happy, man. Yeah, you know, we worked so hard for it. You know, they changed the rules this year to well, they thought if you win 5 stages, normally you get the green jersey. But so it has worked out. But whereas in past years, if they'd have probably done the same thing, I'd have had an armchair ride to the green jersey. We really had to fight for it this week, and it's been a lot of effort, but it's so worth it in the end. You know, we've gone home with 6 stage wins here, 5 from me, 1 from Tony, green jersey. We can be super happy.
Second twice in 2007 and 2008, then 30th and 26th the past 2 years. It was starting to look as though Cadel Evans' shelf life as a Tour contender was close to expiring. At 34, he's the oldest Tour winner since the Second World War. He was also the strongest man in one of the hardest Tours we've seen in a while.
Cadel, of course you've had to stand on that podium before, just not on that top spot. Can you put into words what the difference feels like?
Personally, going second so close on 2 occasions before was so close yet so far. But this year to be there and with a sizable lead as well to come into the coming right on the Champs-Élysées, it just makes it a pleasure just to be here.
When the organisers changed the rules of the King of the Mountains competition this year, it was to ensure that a proper specialist climber or an overall contender should win it. They got both in Samuel Sanchez. There was further hope for the home nation in the performance of Pierre Olonne, who shepherded Thomas Voeckler through the mountains and then rode away to take the win at Alpe d'Huez. He's the best young rider. His fellow Frenchman Jérôme Coppel is third. Estonia's Ryan Taaramäe is an exciting rider too. Garmin Cervelo had a fabulous tour, 4 stage wins, including the team time trial, and all 9 men on the podium. Although if Dave Zabriskie looks a little flat on the far right of your picture, that's because he's a cardboard cutout, having crashed out on stage 9. And finally, there is the 1-2-3, made 3D. Cadel Evans in a Schleck sandwich.
He got out, though, to become the first ever Australian to win the Tour de France, and he won it in a vintage year.
So as the peloton heads for the final intermediate sprint of this year's Tour, it's all come down to this one very prolonged kick in the tail. But as we all know by now, the real beauty lies in the detail, the inspiration and aspiration, allegation and incident which make up the fabric of each July. And this Tour has had as rich a seam of that as any. We've been there every kilometre of the way, of course, sometimes on our bikes.
How many have you got?
14.
You got a cold one?
Sometimes by the side of the road, and always shoving a microphone where it sometimes doesn't belong.
Well, good luck to you, Cadel. It was a kind of guerra fazulla.
I don't know what is guerra fazulla.
Le champion espagnol, Alberto Contador!
It started with a boo. The returning champion roundly unappreciated by a hostile French crowd. Then, from the moment the winds of the Vendée blew life into the year-long dormant corpse of the Tour de France, the battle commenced. Not so much man against man, but more man against tarmac. Stage 1 saw the man with number 1 on his back, and that set the tone. Bone-crunching aside, the wins were shared out with happy abandon. The world champion looked great in yellow, and Geraint Thomas's contract negotiations were helped along by a solid run in white, the reward for a belligerent opening week. His solo dig on the Tourmalet stage, complete with hair-raising off-piste moments, the aggressive highlight of a tour which has earned him a new 3-year deal with Sky. Can he be a proper GC contender?
You can't say that he can't.
If Sky had ever dreamt of the yellow jersey, then stage 7 saw that dream bite the dust. Wiggins crashed out.
It's over for Bradley, okay? He's got a broken collarbone, I think.
At the finish, as Cavendish crossed the line for his second win, he had no idea what had happened behind him.
I'm gutted for him. We could have brought home a sprint, perhaps a sprint jersey and a yellow jersey.
Mark Cavendish himself was having a typical tour. A little slow to start, but picking up unstoppable momentum and a serious love for green.
I think the colour suits me, don't you, Ned?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a spectacular success. British success apart, it's been Norway who've stolen the show. Thor Hushovd,
the world champion, has to win a stage of the Tour de France in that jersey.
And the young pretender Edvald Boasson-Hagen riding out wins in a bunch sprint. And a textbook Hushovd-style breakaway move into Pinerolo, the master and the apprentice. On any other year, the sight of the world champion riding out two heroic stages might have been the show in its entirety. But 2011 has been a riotous race, a big, broad, bold and very beautiful landscape.
On anything other than the steepest of inclines, more than 80% of the energy a rider produces is used simply to push air out of the way. Yes, cycle racing, it's all about aerodynamics. In fact, it can be used to explain most of the behaviour that you're going to see on the roads. So, with the help of Ned here, we're going to try and illustrate the cause and effect of this one cycling fundamental. Oi! This 80% rule only really applies to the rider on the front. Tucked in behind here, well, I'm producing about half of the power of man one, as Ned here is ably demonstrating. You all right there, Ned? It's just like sheltering behind a wall in a high wind. More riders in front of me, bigger the wall, put half a dozen of them there, and I can literally be freewheeling while the likes of Ned here is pulling his tripes out. So now you've seen how the raw principle works, let's see how that plays out in a race.
You coming through anytime soon, Gordon?
In a bit, mate.
And so the French drought on the Tour de France is well into its third decade. Frankly, this is a nation which for too long has been surviving on scraps of success, individual performances from the likes of Virenque or Fayou, Le Quatre or Chavanel. Successes which have been celebrated, or in some cases perhaps over-celebrated. And yet, in Thomas Voeckler, the evergreen rider with a serious collection of yellow jerseys, they do have a true hero. When you wear this jersey, do you feel a great responsibility for France as well as yourself because of your status in France?
No, I just try to be myself and I just try to do my job, and that's all.
The clock will start now, and that's when we'll find out just by how much Thomas Voeckler leads the Tour de France.
Of course, it had to be Voeckler. There was some good fortune about last Sunday, he admitted that himself. He could, for example, have very easily been taken out by the crash which eliminated Fletcher and Hogeland from the breakaway. He certainly benefited from the ill-judged temporary cessation of hostilities by Garmin, but it mattered little in the end. When he took to the podium, you didn't need a degree in psychology to second-guess what might have been going through his mind.
I'm not a dreamer. I will just fight and give all I can. And I know that it's impossible for me to keep it 10 days like 2004.
On Monday's rest day, Voeckler was joined by his family. Little Mahé was busy putting his old man through some slightly unwise interval training at the team hotel this morning. He wasn't even born the last time his dad wore the maillot jaune. 10 days which held France in a spell, but it was the two big mountain stages in the Pyrenees which created the myth. On the first of them, stage 12, he lost half of his advantage. The next day, Armstrong went on the attack, leaving Voeckler riding on his own further down the climb to Plateau de Beille, defending his lead for all he was worth.
5:04 is what he's got to beat. He can see the clock now as he's lined up. He's got the yellow jersey for at least another day, probably for two. Fantastic, what can you say?
He hung on, and life has never been the same for him since. Now, 7 years later, he finds himself facing a similar rearguard action.
Now, you know, I'm 32 years old. It's not like if I were 25, so I take day one by one and we'll see what happens. I have no pressure. I just give all I can. We'll see.
Good luck. So Vöckler is fated, his presence on a damp morning brightening moods and raising smiles, his leftover podium treats handled with the sacred zeal of religious icons. It's an easy dream for France to dream, a harder one perhaps for Thomas Vöckler to ride into fulfilment. Ladies and gentlemen, back by popular demand, the men in the blue polo shirts, Phil and Paul, here to answer your emails. They've been fully briefed, they're prepped, they're ready to go. Is that correct?
It's correct, Ned, but keep them easy.
I will. OK, Matt Downing emails in with this question. Bearing in mind some of the rain at the finishes, has a stage of the tour ever been cancelled due to adverse weather, perhaps excessive rain or fog?
Yeah, it has been cancelled. We finished a time trial once, won by Evgeny Berzin. We were in the Alps, and then we were facing up to a ride to Sestriere. It would have been 1996. And we didn't believe the forecast. He said it was going to be snow. But when we looked out next morning, we couldn't find the car. It was completely disappeared under the snow. And the organisers obviously couldn't race. And in fact, the cars went up the Col d'Issoire, where the wind was blowing. It was a blizzard. And they were bringing off the spectators who'd ridden up on their bikes with hypothermia. They actually did them all a favour. But the race was taken over the top, and Bjarne Riis went on to win the race. They restarted on the other side of the snow and raced to Sestriere.
Isn't that the year that Gary Imlach almost abandoned, because we sent Gary Imlach to the top to watch the riders coming over? We had to pull him down a little bit later on. He was like an igloo.
Yes, he was very, very cold, yeah.
I can picture that. All right, here's an email from Colin from Barrow-upon-Soar in Leicestershire. I was wondering when the first lead-out train appeared in bike racing. Now, interestingly here, he says, I don't recall the likes of Cipollini, Zabel or Abdou-Japarov, name but a few, benefiting from the kind of lead-outs enjoyed by Cav. It's not quite true about Cipollini, is it, Paul?
No, it's not. Cipollini he had a lead-out train, didn't he? But in the early days, people talk about the great Rick Van Looy, who was a sprinter who came to the Tour de France. He was eagerly awaited to come to the Tour de France. He crashed out. But he did win stages using the solo superior team. But I have to say that really the lead-out train is a modern thing. And it's coming now from people like HTC High Road, and before him Eric Zabel organised the lead-out trains as well.
But don't forget Alessandro Petacchi had a great lead-out train, and I think he took a lot of the riders from Mario Cipollini's lead-out train when Cipollini actually retired. And I think from then on, HTC High Road of Mark Cavendish, they've really brought it to perfection.
OK, one final question, subject very close to both of your hearts. Are the riders paid wages by their teams, or is it just the prize money that they earn for each race? How much would a Tour winner earn?
Well, as Paul became very rich as a professional cyclist, I'm sure you know the answer to that.
No, it's such a wide list of how much a rider can win. At the height of his career, Lance Armstrong was earning between $25 and $35 million, which is £20 million. But the prize money for the man who wins a Tour de France, I'm a bit shocked sometimes. €450,000 or £400,000 is all the winner of this 3-week bike race gets.
He doesn't even keep a penny of the winnings. He puts it in the coffers of the team, and it's split up amongst the riders who ride the Tour de France on the team, because as the winner you become very famous and then you earn your money after that.
And that's exactly how it works with the commentary team as well. They divide everything that they earn on this production fairly amongst the entire production team.
Fantastic.
Keep your emails coming. Go to itv.com/tour. That's where you can find all the links to the emails, and also follow us on Twitter at ITV Cycling.
The most feared of all weather conditions and a regular in the Tour de France, crosswinds. But why is it any different to the normal flavour of airflow? The answer is space.
Is it?
Yeah. Come on. Be it headwind, tailwind or no wind at all, the influence of the airflow on the riders is in their direction of travel, meaning there's an infinite amount of space for them to get shelter behind each other. Now, when the wind comes from the side, well, suddenly there's only enough shelter for 8 or 9 riders. And should the lead rider, in this case me, choose not to use all of that space, well, now there's only enough room for just one rider to get shelter. The others might be physically close, but are having to push the wind to stay where they are. And should the lead rider choose to accelerate, well, that's when all hell breaks loose.
They just turned into a crosswind, and now the team time trial has arrived a day early. This is Team Columbia HTC. They realise they've got a split, and now you see the dangers because Cancellara was ready. He's up here.
Knew this was going to happen in these crosswind, a diagonal line of riders trying to shelter from the wind in a diagonal line across the road.
Those lines are called echelons, and if you don't manage to fight your way into the first one, the best you can hope for is to form another one as quickly as possible and pray that yours is collectively strong enough to stay with the leaders. Many a GC rider has been caught out by either not being close enough to the front when somebody tries to exploit the weather conditions, or by getting caught up in the crashes that often ensue.
This is a big split, and there will be serious alarm bells, Phil, ringing behind.
Nobody wins the Tour de France when the wind blows from the side, but there's always going to be those that lose it.
Now, even from this considerable distance of some way away from the UK, I can hear you all thinking exactly the same thing. Not enough Jens Voigt on the show. Well, there's one easy way of remedying that. Sit him down, stick a microphone on him, and let him talk. Last night, I did just that.
At first, you're a little shy, you know, when you have the camera in front of you, and even more when it's it's live. So you try to not think about the fact that there's maybe 1 million people watching every little bit you're saying now.
He's a world champion. That means he's not exactly a kicker, you know, he's a great rider.
Sometimes even got in trouble in school because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. So I think it's just the story of my life, just always talks.
Kick out everybody who is making our life difficult, kicking everybody out who's causing trouble, kicking everybody out who makes our life complicated and more difficult.
I think that I'm allowed to say that this might be part of the reason why I'm a little bit popular. Because people see what they get and you get what they see. There's no faking, you know, that's just what I say, what I show, what I do, that's what I am.
The determination of Voigt has triumphed on the day. That was an extraordinary finish for Jens Voigt.
The tour still, it's a challenge, it's an adventure, it's the hardest thing you probably can do. Have seen, I would think, the whole variety of feelings you can have, from loving the tour, hating it, from triumph, from pain, from scandals. My first tour was already the Festina tour. Then had some great tours, some successes for myself personally. We had this beautiful year in 2008 where we won the Tour de France with Carlos Sastre. We all around him on this podium on the Champs-Élysées, looking down the Champs-Élysées. It's done, you did it, and the next morning there's no more pain, no more stress for you, and that was a fabulous moment actually. Then I crashed the last 2 years. I had some really hard crashes, only one per year, but hard ones. But I would like to think that I still kept a little bit of this fresh spirit, of this enthusiasm for my sport. I think I still kept a little bit of that all through this years.
Who's impressed you more than anyone else?
Well, myself, 40 years old, still selected for the tour team, still there kicking around,
I think I have seen the whole thing from all different angles you can look at it.
Ooh, that's nasty.
In 2009, you had that horrific accident. Is it all a blur? Has your memory come back of the accident or not?
Fortunately, it's not, because I don't want to have these memories back. It's just going to be full of pain. So I have I would think, a loss for about half an hour. I was apparently 3 minutes really unconscious, where I didn't answer and react to them. But I had a loss of 30 minutes. I remember the last thing I saw before was I'm drifting back in the group to last position to get more bottles. And then the next thing I remember after that is I'm laying on my back and looking at the ambulance. I was already in the ambulance and I'm thinking, how the heck did I get in here? And then of course the next thought is, why does everything hurt so much? And then you realize, okay, I must have crashed. The memory goes then on and off. I remember I was in first hospital. They said, no, it's too complicated for us, go somewhere else. And I had a helicopter flight. I remember a little bit of that. They stitched me together actually. That was a terrible moment actually. I sort of waking up and I see them stitching my right hand together. I see another team stitching on my head, putting stitches in here, and I see the third team already disinfecting my right hand to put stitches in there as well. I'm like, give me a break, do one after the other, not do it all at once, So as I said, 2 teams stitching here and on my head, and the third team already preparing to stitch me together on the other hand. Then I said, hey, I need to call my wife to tell her that I'm alive. It's no doubt that everybody has to suffer to go through a tour. You suffer to win it, you suffer to finish it. But that's just part of the job, and I think, fortunately for myself, Early enough in my career, I realized that a lot of hard work and a lot of suffering already in training makes you better, makes you harder, it makes you winning more races or makes you more successful. Eddy Merckx, who is undoubtedly our biggest rider ever, he said, the one who suffers the most wins in the end. I somehow took this idea in my head and it paid off for me. I realized that, okay, it's suffering now, but you get a reward for it. It's terrible if you suffer and you never have a reward. That must be terrible, right? Obviously, my role in the team is changing. I'm not the champion. I'm not the one that's supposed to win and attack and take the stages, but I'm the one that prepares the stage for the others. And now when you become like to the later stadium of your career, you realize, you know what? It is as great to help the others and see them winning and celebrate together after the stage in the bus or in the hotel and be happy with the boys you helped to win. So it's the same suffering. It's always involved. But that is just part of the job. I mean, it's no bowling what we do here.